What did I do? Reg? Are you here sleeping back there, Reg? Do you want to speak?
Well, no, I'm
Oh,
happy
good
to
job.
sit down today, yeah.
Right, no,
I'll wait till next month.
just checking. Make sure you weren't having a nap back there too. All right. 1 o'clock. Oh, well, welcome everybody to the Golden Bay Community Board. I will pass over to Kim for our opening cover care.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kine ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. Ihi aki ana, ti atakura, i tio, i oka, i ohu, ti hei Māori ora.
And I see we have David with us today. Would you like to, David's from the Motueka Community Board. Would you like to join us at the table, David? Yeah, just wherever it feels comfortable, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Just at the table.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Lovely. Oh, thanks for joining us, David. That's really kind. Do we have any apologies or leave? No apologies. Any leave of absences today? Does anyone need to finish early? I'll just welcome Jess as well. Thank you for joining us, Jess. Okay. So we have allocated 30 minutes for public forum with 6 speakers allocated at 5 minutes each. Speakers must be respectful, avoid repetition and criticism of elected members and or staff, and avoid speaking on matters subject to legal proceedings. So with that said, Andy. Hi, Andy. Welcome.
Might join.
Please do.
Hopefully it'll take more than 5 minutes because it's important, but that's up to you. I'm interested in community resilience, particularly stemming from the problems that North Island's had over the past 6 weeks. I've got some notes here which I'll try and, as a bit of a preamble to see where for you to understand where I'm coming from. We have much to learn from the infrastructural failings brought about by Cyclone Gabrielle. Roads, bridges, railway lines, communications, water supplies, all sewage systems all failed. All this creates chaos in the provision of basics being food, shelter and water and communications, it seems, is a basic nowadays for those that are affected. Golden Bay is very vulnerable to climate-related events, with one road in and most roads being dead ends, so there's no alternative way out of that road. We have one power line over the hill, and we are exposed to weather events from the north, and that's not to mention earthquakes. And I will mention earthquakes because before the Christchurch earthquake, Christchurch and Kaikoura weren't deemed to be seriously earthquake prone, and they got hammered. And they're not even on the main fault line. So just as we are not on the main fault line, doesn't mean to say we're not going to miss out. In the 39 years that I've lived in the Bay, Golden Bay has been lucky. The 83 flood and its power outages was localised. There was no damage from storm surges along the coast. The hill road and power supply over the hill was spared. There was a serious flood in the Aorere catchment some years ago where the whole of the Aorere river flats was water wall to wall, but it was localised. Tākeka didn't get badly hammered. The power supply didn't get badly hammered. And again, with Cyclone Gita, they took out the road and made sure we had to be well aware of where our supplies come from, but very quickly private enterprise got organised, had in a barge within a day or so, and basics were put back in place. I understand that barge is on permanent booking for when there's a disaster by Solly's and the dairy company, so it can very quickly be put in place, which is great to see, great to hear. Some in the Bay have an understanding of the potential problems and have prepared for it. As an example, my wife and I, we can probably go for a month if the power goes out and the roads are taken out because we've planned and prepared for it. Well, some people can flush their toilet once and then that's their status of their preparedness because they have no power to pressurise the water supply or to suck the water out of the ground. And that leads to my point. In recent times, should use my glasses. In recent times, there's been little done, as far as I know, on the Golden Bay's vulnerability to climate and earthquake events. And I feel it's incredible that our localised vulnerability work has not been done on that. If it has been done on it, I don't know about it. It's not out in the public, and that's where that information needs to be. We have this lovely document, which is really good, but interestingly, a lot of the information that you put in there is phone numbers, which we all know now, cell phone towers are vulnerable. They have some hours worth of battery storage, and then it's all over. And that's somewhat upsetting for some people. Some examples that concerns me is that if the power goes out, how long will our sewage system, which is a pump sewage system in many areas, work before it starts overflowing? If there's a backup plan, does that backup plan then rely on the road being open to bring generators for all the pump stations or not? I don't know.
You are coming up to your 5 minutes
Yep.
and we will be.
I'm just about there. If the power supply is taken out on the hill, how long does it take to get the rest of Golden Bay back up and running? Is it a problem or is it not? And that's the problem. I don't know. You may know, but if you know, you're not telling us. And if other people know, the information's not out there. This is a great generalisation, but we need more detail so people can, for Golden Bay, so people can plan around their vulnerability and put a tap in their water tank, or even get a water tank, or get a generator, or give barbecue, so they know that within 2 hours or 2 days or 2 weeks, the power may or may not come back on again. And that's my point. We don't know that information, but the people that work in that area have a very good idea.
So you might be interested, Andy, in coming along in May. We'll have Joe Kennedy from Civil Defence Nelson, and we'll have council staff a presentation around the plans they have in place for Golden Bay. So you'd be welcome to attend that
I would love to
presentation.
attend.
And if you've got questions, please put them through to us first, and we can then put them to
Well,
Joe.
it depends what they say.
Yeah, true.
But the issue is whatever comes out of that, if it's appropriate, it needs to be in a readily digestible form for the residents of Golden Bay, not
Yeah.
sitting around the council table and getting
Absolutely.
dust in a file somewhere.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thanks, Andy.
Good.
That's great. Felicity.
It's about the Environmental Protection Agency's proposed changes to persistent organic pollutants, which will affect our recycle centre and landfills and management and disposal thereof. So here's their discussion document. Submissions are due on the 5th of April. And I've also printed out one of their suggested readings. So there you go, I'd like to table that.
Okay, thank you for listening. That's great. Okay. All right, thank you. I thank you to all those that spoke in public forum and raising those important issues. Now, declarations of interest. So we've had Robert declare an interest in 2 of the discretionary funding applications. So he's notified that he will remove himself from the discussion of these 2 applications. And Jess, you've got those, haven't you? And I will remove myself from the community health discretionary fund request as an employee. Does anyone else have any declarations of interest relating to the agenda? Excellent, great. So we'll move into the confirmation of the minutes from our February meeting. Would someone like to confirm them as a true and correct record? Right,
Yes.
moved by Deputy Chair Knowles, number seconder.
Tom.
Board member Hewison. All those in favour? Aye. Lovely. Great. So that moves us into our presentations. I see Chris is here waiting for Project Divine. Welcome, Chris. Yeah, absolutely.
I sent just through a PowerPoint. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of the committee board to listen to what we get up to. So I'll just preface that if you're not familiar with Project Divine, we have started off a long time ago, but now we've reached a pretty large size. So there's a lot of information for you. So I don't expect you to remember everything. I'm going through it quite quickly because of time frame, but it's there on your records and you can look at it later on if you want more information. So without further ado, I'll get started. So that's our Christmas gang. Not everybody made it, of course, but a lot of young people, a lot of people who didn't, there was a lot of them are from the Jobs for Nature funding, so the people trying out what they'd actually really like doing environmental work. Our lowest record is 1 day, someone lasted. They were so keen to start. At the end of 1 day, no way. They were begging to start. And others sort of, come in very cool and just start falling in love with it and so on. So next slide, please. That's our sort of banner, fostering native ecosystems in Golden Bay at the top of the south. Thank you. So how we started, we've gone for a bit of colour this time just to sort of help highlight a particular place of processes. So we started in 1999 when we first started moving up, when we first moved up here, and we started discovering all these vines growing on our property and started to clear them up with help from, with suggestions from our neighbours. And it became quite obvious within a few years that there were so many banana passion vine in particular around, that we weren't going to be able to manage it just by dealing with our own property. We were dealing with about 600 seedlings a year just coming in from the birds roosting in trees, bringing the seeds with them. So we started a weed busting group up on Rocklands Road, and that was umbrellaed by Forest and Bird. They acted as a help us with the paperwork and what eventually turned out to be funding applications and so on. We also established a QE2 covenant, and the weed busting groups, after a while it was quite obvious that even those weren't sufficient. We needed to move to another level. And so the QE2 representative at the time suggested we apply to the DOC Biodiversity Condition Fund. So we started off with 16 properties, and lo and behold, we got $54,000 and for 3 years. So we started a team. So that's how it all started, and suddenly, the fun of getting funding applications approved was quite addictive. And we've just gone from strength to strength ever since. So then we left Forest and Bird in 2016, became an independent charity, Project Divine Trust. We've since changed the name to Project Divine Environmental Trust, although legally, when you look at the Charities Commission, it still has the original name. That was to reflect our wider range of work. So we are involved with funded work and contract work. So funded work is to particularly focus on our goals of dealing with weeds on private properties. Contract work is to carry out
all kinds of jobs on the reserves for dock, TDC, the rivers of, we do all the rivers of Golden Bay, kiwi fruit, wildings, and so on. And the essence, though, of having contract work is that we can charge a certain rate. So we actually create some extra money for ourselves, which helps to make us more sustainable and to run our business. We do get a grant from TDC, which is much appreciated. And that sort of acts as a sort of anchor to keep us, that's coming in. But as our contract work gets greater and greater, getting closer to running our own, getting closer to being self-sustainable. After all seconds, next one.
Sorry.
That's a giant old man's beard. That gives you an idea of how big they can be.
It's huge.
Yeah, it took them a day to get it out of the ravine it was in because it had so many side shoots, they had to kill hundreds of them. Next one. And since then, we've expanded our initial goals. So we're still doing weed control. We've added in wilding pine control, as well as we do a lot of mass planting for TDC and landowners and all the releasing of the trees as well. And we've setting up a pest rodent and trapping network in and around the Grove Reserve, involving 10 landowners and expanding out to the start of Grove here. Next one. This just gives you a map of all the management units of Golden Bay, which we have broken down into units that are geographically appropriate. Some of them we subdivided in terms of getting funding applications. So you can see that it starts off with places we haven't been to. In fact, the one we haven't started at yet is Upper Takaga NUG2 at the bottom, the blue one, but we've got money now to start assessing it, and we'll be applying for funding next year. So all the green ones indicate how many years we've actually had funding. The yellow one covers ones where we're underway now. So basically, all of Golden Bay will receive funding, assuming we get the next funding application for Upper Takaga in about 3 or 4 years. So that's the initial hit to get it under control. And the work keeps going beyond that to maintain it. Next one. So where are we now? So at the moment, we have a field team of 32 full-time people. And they're working over in Tasman as well as here. We have 12 people over the hill. We go as far as Nelson Lakes, Tapamira, doing high biodiversity value sites. They're called SNAs, special
Natural areas.
significant natural areas.
Natural areas.
And we're just starting a depot in Richmond. We've received over 2.7 million in funding. We've killed over 1.25 million plants so far, of which more than half are banana passion vine. And we've see 182,000 of all that spears. So we're over 700,000 banana passion vines. And they probably brought in 50 plants here back in the 30s or something like that. So we carry out contract work. So at the moment, like last year, we had 250,000 odd of contract work, but also we have a 3-year contract with Jobs for Nature, which is just under 6,000. So that's where there's a lot of money coming in. So go on to the next. So we received I should have actually just put in the very last one we got. We had a Jobs for Nature contract to employ 9.5 people, but we also had a Jobs for Nature grant, which was to do what we wanted to do. That was for 3.5 people. So part of that was starting a wilding conifer program for Golden Bay. So that's up and running now. And as you know, you'll see them dotted around the hills here. That's gradually creeping in more and more. And we started off doing some work up for QE2 on Tyke Hill, and that was good training. And then with this Jobs for Nature program, 20% of that of the funding we have is being put on wilding pines. As you know, Project Yanzoon have done massive wilding pine control in the park of Avon Tasman. So we're keen to work with them on the Halo, and we're looking at doing a specific job with them. Very close on the immediate Halo. And you know, quite a lot of landowners are very keen to work on it themselves, but there's a lot who really want some help as well. That's fine. So we've surveyed all the wilding conifers near to the park. We've looked at over 750 properties, all using satellite images. 198 had at least one wilding pine that you could spot on the satellite, which normally means there are a few others. And yeah, we've counted 8,800 wilding pines to go and deal with. We've contacted. So we've got funding is not for all of Golden Bay, so it's a particular focus. So in that area, we've contacted 76 properties. 49 were keen to have help. 27 said no. Well, that's okay. We start, and at least you make a line in the sand. And then we carried out control this spring on 8 properties in Clifton and Craigieburn, and that they were 2 particular clusters of yeses, so there's a logical groups to start with, and then you can start expanding. So as you can see, we've dealt with over 1,100 pines, a lot of them very steep areas. You know, so we'll go on to the next one. We've got some good maps here that are really interesting. So this is the result of all the wilding pine satellites. Satellite assessments. So you can see where there are the pinky ones, or where the wilding pines are. And the yellow ones is where we've been to. So a little bit hard to see the yellow. Clifton and Craigieburn. Next one. And this was the property owner responses. Yes is blue, no is pinky. So this is it makes it so much easier to decide where we're going to go once you've got this done. Next one. There's some pictures. This is up in Craigieburn. That's the pines are dying. So if you look very carefully in the distance on the right side, you can see some dead ones on the nearer horizon. That's that land, and then the ones off to the left is but you can still see right up on the furthest horizon in the distance, there's still some way up there. Those are ones that have already jumped into the national park. Next one. This is along Birds Clearing Road, Clifton. So this is on private lands up there, and gives you a pretty good idea of sort of how it works. Next one. This is an area we're particularly interested in for those who don't look at the road that much as they come down the last bit of the hill. Straight ahead of you, this is the view. And there's a big logging area, but if you look off to the left, there's a lot of pines up in that are in the national park there, as well as ones further behind. So we want to start working on some of the private properties usually next to it. We don't have funding particularly to go to Dockland, but maybe that's something for the future. Next one. So how it works with our guys, everyone has an iPhone with them, which has our own apps on it. And so they have a mapping system that tells them that they can put in waypoints of exactly what they're finding as they go along. So the next one, got to keep up with a bit of speed on that. Ring the bell.
2 minutes left.
Yeah. So this one, oh God, there are some red zones, middle on the right, just the little small ones. So those are fenced. So that's for some reason One of them is because the pines are right on the road, and so we're leaving those because we don't want to get involved with having to drop them onto the birds clearing road. And sometimes it's a landowner wants to keep them for their own firewood, so we just put a fence around them. The guys, when they're walking around deep in the bush, it starts beeping as soon as they try and cross that line. So we know that not to go. And next one. So the next, we're carrying on. We've got more work to do again this coming spring, and we're looking for more funding to keep it going. Next one. I thought I've got to put these in. This is something I've always played with, is how much of Golden Bay is actually within half a kilometre of dock land. So if you include the reserves as well, and go right down the bottom, you'll see the land within half a kilometre is 47% of the private land of Golden Bay. And if we go to the next one, this is 1 kilometre. So 1 kilometre is in terms of birds flying and moving seeds and whatever, pine cones flying out the seeds. You're actually up to 79% of private land in Golden Bay within 1 kilometre of a dock, some dock land. Next one. The other thing we've in that Jobs for Nature program, as well as Wanting Pines, which was a lot of work to get that up and running. This has also been a lot of work. It's getting a whole tracking network going up the road. So this is the map for that. There's an awful lot of data. All the sites are in there. They're all coded exactly which property they're at and so on. So we have over 10 kilometres of tracks, 136 tracking sites. We have 4 tracking lines already up and running. 4 more due to start. 4 more properties about to start, which will involve 16 tracking lines. And the other smaller ones will be added in 6 months. So that's getting quite a big program now. And there's other people outside of there wanting us to add them in. And talk of maybe going down to the sea there along the golf course to Watapiti Sandspit and so on. So we'll probably look at using Give a Little to get funding to keep it going, because the core essence of trapping lines is that people get excited at the beginning, but trying to keep it going into the future, you really do need some money for some land maintenance. Next one. So finally, the reason I'm here is that we're also asking for some funding from your discretionary fund of $1,000. So we've applied to Dock Community Fund for what are called the 3 emus. So these are ecosystem management units. And so this is, but if you see the red properties up in there, there's Painsford, there's Council Reserve, which you might not know, and then the Grove. And so we put in the funding application was only for projects that involved these emus around the country. So this is to deal with weeds in and around them, and also some predator control, supporting the trapping and so on, doing some planting at probably Just Council Cave to help support the cave net species that live in the cave, and then also to do working bees to deal with the sycamore and other seedlings that will be coming away when we kill the sycamores, the bit mature sycamores. So that is what I'm asking for, some money, which would be specifically to help run the working bees, and any spare leftover money would go towards giving out gel bottles to landowners to help with weed control. So I know it's only a small part of the budget. We've applied for 150,000, but 1,000 from you is a really strong indicator of community involvement. And I've given the presentation to you that you like what I'm trying to do, and so on. So I think that's the last. Do you want a question?
Yes. In terms of that straight work that you do, and you know that I have that, and whenever you're applying for council for that Monday comes through, we're very strong advocates over there,
Yeah.
letting the other councillors know about, you know, just how successful Divine has been. In terms of the Wilding Pines, do you go to the forestry companies for some money to clean them up?
They're on our list.
Yeah, I think that's
So
a great
that's
thing
our
to
next
do,
thing.
isn't
So
it?
we've had a whole funding brainstorming
Yeah.
session, so we are planning.
Yeah. So seeing the image up there of, you know, where it's been logged, and then you've got the Wilding Pines, it's like, well, it's a bit of the old,
Yeah.
you know, privatise the profits and socialise the costs,
Yeah.
or the mop up. It'd be
Indeed.
great to go to them and say, look, we're going to clean up after you, and have that in great.
We're working on it. So just to finish off, we've just got a couple of quick ones. This is what you can't see from Abel Tasman Drive in Three Oaks. This is a big wilding planting program of a wetland on the Riley farm. So I think it's 7,000 trees we put in there for TBC. All very carefully organised to exactly where they are to get the best long-term management. And then the next one. This is just down the road at by the milk factory. You can see that we've been involved as the primary contractors for weed control, willow control, plot, any sort of extra jobs that need to happen in the Mototiki River eco restoration project. That's been a 5-year project. And one more. This is another farmland wetland. So we've done the planting for that. And then, you know, he rang up and said, oh, you know, I can't, it's far too busy to do the weed control around them. Can you come and feel them for me? That's a great thing. With having 32 people, we can just switch off a job for 1 or 2 days and put people straight in, clean up 1,000 trees. Everyone's happy. I think that's the last one.
Celia, you had a question. Thanks, Chris. We've come a long way since I was on the board and people were using their own vehicles,
Yeah,
transport,
It's
spray
just-
and stuff.
up to 9 here.
It's just incredible. I would never have thought it in those days.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, I know I keep asking you this question, but I'm going to ask it again. And that is that, what is your input from qualified ecologist or, you know, ecology services? Because, you know, you're so big now and you've got such a big reach. And I just, you know, just to balance it out and provide that expertise for,
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
you know, my question is, how are you working with the TBC ecologists, or are you getting contracting some ecology expertise when need be?
Yeah,
Just
I guess
think it's
the
got a little
short,
bit of a gap, you know?
sure. Yeah, well, the short answer is we rely on a lot of input from all kinds of different people for situations. So the Wilding Pine work, I went to the Wilding Pine conference in Blair, along with the TDC biosecurity staff were there, and Andrew McAllister, I can't even remember him. He was running the field trip of that. So, you know, you get a lot of information. I videoed that and then showed all that to the team, doing exactly how they, you know, so there's the latest tricks. So we're getting stuff like that. And then for this funding application, the 3 emus, I was working in very closely with Greg Knapp from DOC. So his training is as a botanist. So he's taken over Simon Walls's position. So he's now a DOC ranger in brackets threatened species. So that's his speciality. So he advised us on what was needed for Painsford, the Grove and Council Reserve. So that's where we get all our information. And then we sort of cross-correlate that with mentioning it to TBC or whatever. So I try and have updates with various people. That's why it's good to come along to this. And then tomorrow I'm talking to Landcare Trust, their national conference over the hill. And I'll be briefing the conservation board. soon as they come over here next time. So, you know, we're keeping up to date with a lot of people, and, you know, I have started my first sentence at one particular conference is I'm not a botanist. I don't have a degree in ecological management, but I'm a scientist by training, and so I know how to bring in the data and get information from people.
Yeah, are you going to be working on the split with Onitahua, you know, the Onitahua project?
Yeah.
Is that going to be part of your remit as well?
So we're not actively involved with it as such, but we've had discussions with Brian Alder, who used to be a project in the very first Project Align team 12 years ago. And so he's already indicated that he's very happy to use us when they need appropriate labour. So the fact that we are able to go and work on dot land, you know, without any complications, you know, we've already approved for that. So because being approved contractors for TDC, DOC, LINS, etc., means we can be used where other people they wanted your mates to come along. No, so we do expect some work on it.
And where is Council K?
On the way to Rawiti Cave, you got Placards Road,
Okay.
and then you go through the reef. You go over a little bridge and then through the reef to the left is farm. And on your right is a big part of the reef. That is Council Cave, I think. And it has 4 species of vertebrates, I think it's the right word, that are only found in that cave, the whole world.
Excellent. Oh, well, thank you very much for your time today, Chris. That's great. It's
Anyway,
good
now
to
you've got an
hear.
update.
Yeah, thank you. And just a quick question for me to wrap up. With our discretionary fund sitting at quite a low balance, if we're unable to grant you as much money as you were hoping for, would a strong letter of support also be useful to you?
That would be good.
Thank you. Great, thanks for your time, Chris. That's
Okay.
great. Amy, but I don't, is she in the tea room?
I don't actually think it's very much.
I shall go check. Oh, thanks, Chris. Okay. Okay, so she may still be at Marifina. Well, we can do my usual trick and just jump around through the agenda till everyone gets totally lost.
Yep.
Okay, so if everyone's happy, we might move into the chair report. Until Amy arrives. Let's see, awards presentation. Okay, so few decisions to make in the chair's report today. So the April meeting has fallen on Easter Monday. So we have a choice. We can either have it 1 week earlier, 1 week later, which puts it. So if we have it 1 week earlier, it'll be 2 weeks from today. 1 week later, it'll be 2 weeks from our May meeting. Alternatively, we can defer the items for the April meeting and meet on the 8th of May as scheduled. We have loosely indicated that to people that have been requesting presentations, making sure that we are not pushing out anything urgent, which has proved to be the case. So we just need a decision on that.
Is it possible to have it on the Tuesday rather than the Monday?
No. Not with the meeting calendar and the schedule, and Robin pulled throughout that meeting a lot. We could possibly close it.
Well, Kim may not be able to come on Tuesday. That's the other thing. But
we need
maybe
to check.
Wednesday or just another day of that week so that we can keep it continuity wise.
Yeah, we need to check diaries. We need to check with Chris and see, like, she may still be a month anyway.
I couldn't see her.
So we've just jumped into a chair report, just discussing whether we meet on 2 weeks early, 2 weeks late, or just defer till the May meeting. But Grant has suggested that we change the date of the meeting because the Monday meeting falls on Easter.
Tuesday or something.
Yeah, we need to clear that with Robin, then, would we not?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you check.
Have you got a date in
No,
mind?
I wouldn't be able to
No,
come on.
Kim, so maybe the Wednesday.
What date are you talking about? I'm just looking at that.
Must be about
It'd be Tuesday the 4th, I just discussed it. No,
No,
Tuesday, Tuesday.
Yeah, we can't do
11th.
Tuesday the 4th.
Yeah, I think, to be honest,
mean
in
November.
the interest of not going round and round and discussing it, I think we stick to the options of deferring it or meeting 2 weeks later or 2 weeks earlier instead of trying to find a date that's going to fit
We could.
Yeah.
2 weeks earlier, 1 week earlier,
Yeah.
sorry, 1 week
Yeah.
earlier,
1
sorry,
week either side.
getting all excited then.
Cool.
So within 3 weeks' time,
Yes,
is that right?
3rd of April would do.
3rd of April.
I just wonder how much is going to be generated in that time.
Not a lot.
No, so I wonder the value of having it. When I'm
Um,
inclined to, although you chair, I'm so inclined to shoot around for a date. I think there'd be some value in just Robin and Jess working out what would be possible if the date does fall.
The 1 week
Available.
later, the 17th of April, is training. I've got a training in Richmond. I'm not sure. I think you'll probably be really involved as well.
I was thinking about giving a date just after what we should fall and having Jess and Robin look into what's possible there, just to put look at if it's not possible to have something.
Deferred.
Well, we've got workshops both Tuesdays.
Yeah, I haven't got
What
that
about
in
the
mind.
Wednesday? What about the Wednesday?
Just in terms of my door, it's already been Monday the 3rd. So I'm wondering whether someone's already anticipated this.
Oh, I see what.
I had that on my calendar.
Ah,
So it's already down. But,
Yeah.
Sorry, 11th.
oh, we had,
Actually,
yeah, we had, didn't we? We discussed, we had discussed it, putting it into the 3rd with
Ah,
Robin,
So she's
but she
done it.
may have already done it. Okay. So that's in,
Certainly in my drawings.
so that's in 2 weeks, yeah. So Robin has generated that date as a placeholder. I mean, that is an option. There will not be a lot of content, but
3
we can
weeks.
still meet.
It is 3 weeks from now.
Oh, you made it.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
big chair report or something.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't matter if we just had a shorter meeting.
Sure.
You know,
So
whatever,
we'll go
whatever
with-
business there is and
We'll go with,
get home
we'll
early.
go with the 1 week earlier date,
Yeah.
3rd of April.
And then it'll mean that the following one will be a slightly longer period, but. Yeah,
All right, we'll let Robin know. That's confirmed. Excellent, thanks,
Yep.
everybody.
I'll check to see whether Janine.
Oh,
come
whether
up
that
with
fits with
that.
Janine, yeah.
Yeah, Chief Executive's back in the council now. She's had a year off.
Right.
Running the future of local
Have a
government.
year off.
Yeah. A year off, a year off.
A year away.
A year away, so good. And it may, she's very keen to come over and meet with the committee board. And I suspect what would come with that was a bit of a, you know, what she's experienced over the years. So
Yeah.
we'll check to see whether, and that might fill out your agenda pretty nicely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be really nice. Actually might work really well too, because we could almost do the workshop.
Yes, we try something.
Really by then, okay. Great, right, good. Cool. The board measures with Newsline that we share with Motueka Community Board. So our first article has been in. Yep, that was a couple of days ago. I'd really like everyone to contribute to this. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but so I've put in some loose dates, but obviously they're not. Sarah's great. She emails me to remind me, and then I go, oh, it's at that time already, Sarah. So I'm happy to work with you on doing them or whatever. So if that timeline works for everybody,
I've just got an idea about that.
Oh, good.
Because, you know, people hear a bit more from us through the Newsline.
do you want to?
I just thought it might be good to have the board members go first.
Sure.
Particularly if there's new board members, and I thought that would be a good thing to do, and then we could tag on after.
Okay, so I'll put Henry and then Robert. I'll send these out again. And then we'll cross you out. Celia. Awesome. Oh, all right, I'll send those out. Thanks, everybody. The invite to the Anzac Parade. So the Tākaka service will be commenced at 9 o'clock. For our newer board members, we always have a wreath, one for Tākaka and one for Collingwood. And the RSA has requested that we notify them of who will be attending on behalf of the council and community board to lay a wreath and Tākaka. Would anyone like?
Well, Collingwood also have a dawn service,
Yes.
so I know that's been left off, so I've been to that the last few times.
Well, they just do
And,
it.
Robin has just sent an email out to us,
Right.
councillors asking, well, no, it's not. I'm just letting you know what else is happening in the background, so Robin sent an email out asking which we're interested in attending, so there's also that process
Yes,
happening
thank
at the
you.
same time. So just to put
We don't want to jump
Collingwood
up.
dawn on the,
Collingwood dawn.
Right
I
now as
did
well, but
have
I think
that in
it
our
only-
email.
I think it only has, I think it doesn't have it on this document because a board member hasn't intended to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Collingwood dawn and that's a councillor. So we do.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but I have been going. I'm just trying to flesh out the whole thing. There's also a dawn on at Collingwood.
I was supplying the sound system for the Tākaka one, so I'm happy to be there.
Okay.
Be the Tākaka, if nobody else wants to.
Yeah, and just because you're not laying the wreath doesn't mean you can't still attend.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a community board or whatever, so.
Yeah, I'll probably still attend.
Yep.
Family.
Yep.
Listening to them.
And who for the 11:30 at Collingwood? Will anyone be going out to there? Dave normally did that, didn't they? You're going to go to Collingwood.
I'm happy to go to the dawn. I think it's.
I think
6
one,
or
yeah, one will be.
6:30.
Yep.
So I would do that again.
Also, I'll let Noel know.
Well, so one thing
For
that's
us.
happening is that Robin is also doing some organising and linking in with them.
Maybe
so
I'll just let Robin know.
I could finish, so
Sorry.
it would be good to make just a link in with Robin. So we've got one board council
Yes.
message going to the RSA.
So it feels like they've just sent two different emails to,
Yeah.
to requesting two different things, not with RSA attendees. Cool. All right. Sorry, Chris, jumping in on top of you. Right, the discretionary fund. So I've had many discussions about the fund and the need to have a better criteria. David did a lot of work on the Motueka Community Board fund and very kindly shared it with me. So then I just shamelessly crossed out put wrong play in all the slots. So thank you for that, David. It was really kind. So the proposed document is being developed for adoption by full council, and this will contain both of our funding criteria. So there's a separate report. Has everyone had a chance to go through it? And does anybody have any questions? So this is page 39 of your agenda. We could, couldn't we? Yeah, actually we could. So actually we might just hold that as a separate report. The discretionary fund report, if that is a separate report, so we can do it separately, it might be easier. The letter of support for Mana Whenua. So I got that away. Thank you for all your prompt responses that allowed to get that completed in time.
Do we need to ratify that?
I don't think so, because we
That is part of the resolution.
yeah, off the
It's
chair
a
report, yeah.
group one.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Items from public forums, everyone had a chance to read through those. Nobody have any questions about actions?
I don't have any questions, but in terms of, through you, Chair, sorry. So in terms of the men's shed, I'm chair of the Rec Park Committee, Management Committee, just to say that the timing of those meetings isn't working out so well to go. We've made processes happen to about to move along. So men's shed struggled to get onto the agenda. They didn't bring the information along to get on the agenda. It was ended at public forum. I think I said this last time. But I was just talking with Richard Holly the other day. There's an intent to call a special meeting of that committee just about to get there. The okay from the committee then goes to, I think, possibly the regulatory meeting, I'm not sure which one it is, but so that has been progressed quite well, and there were no objections, so a hearing doesn't have to be held, and there were a lot of letters.
Right. Right, it's really good to hear. Thank you, Chris. With regard to Wapukatahi, I've connected with Andrew James, and we're going to have a conversation about how we can work better together for our community, keeping them informed and updating on things, you know, road related. So that moves us into community liaison reports. Representative, sorry.
In terms of the other actions, is it okay to say a couple of things about those?
Oh yeah, of course.
So these things are getting progressed and behind at the Port Advisory Group, which Celia chairs, so you might like to speak to them.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to do that. So pedestrian safety around Port Taranaki, yeah, this is an issue that has been exacerbated, has sort of been elevated because there's now a proposal from the port management that all the private parking happen over in Tallies, over the road in Tallies. So that's going to actually increase the you know, problems with crossing the road and all that kind of thing. So it is a work in progress, and I think the enterprise manager is going to be starting to with the 2019 roading report, which went in for the business case. So that is it is a work in progress, and definitely the port are going to move their fence back so that there'll be a walking path and possibly cycling between the barrier and the fence. So that is something that the port have undertaken to do.
Right.
It still doesn't.
No.
There won't be any change to that.
No.
Some of that.
What about the suggestion of the flashing warning lights on both approaches that Roland made?
I mean that would be something that would go into the engineering, you know, suggestions to you know, the whole picture of it. So it is all being worked on,
Cool.
and it's recognised as a problem by the port managers. And I could go on to talk about
The light pollution,
lighting
yes,
issue.
please.
The feedback at the advisory group was that it's not workable to actually turn the lights off during the 24-hour period because the tide influences when the work is done. And they are going to look at putting shields on them. But the previous ones, there wasn't any complaint, but I think they were orange lights.
Yeah, these will be blocked right away.
These, yeah. So I think we've just got to keep, I mean, I don't think that this issue is going to go away. We've just got to keep, it'll keep coming up at the advisory group meetings. Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah,
They have tried working out that people could use a cell phone as they're coming into the port. So boats are arriving in there all through the night. There was an idea that there's a point at which they could just be turned off or on a timer, but they need the lights to be able to see to get up the ladder onto the port.
it's going to
Whereas
be safe.
often at other ports there are smaller lights that allow that access, and then they get up and turn on the big ones. So that doesn't work down here. But in the longer term, I know Nick would like to see the towers moved and changed, but they're big, they cost a lot of money, but in the overall development, to be able to make some difference to that. But they did try working out if there's technology that you could use on the phone to get them off and on, but it just doesn't, that's not, the connectivity's not good enough for that.
It's great to be able to share that information. Actually, it's just to show the community they really are working on this. This is not, they're not just going, oh, it's bright lights, we're just ignoring them.
No.
They're really putting in some time and effort to solve it.
And
So
they-
thank you.
They actually said they think that the older lights were actually worse, but because these are LEDs, there's a look about them in terms of what's getting, you know, the spill and how it looks. So it's certainly been addressed at the advisory meeting.
Thank you. Thanks, Cecilia. Jess, I'm not just taking on for Harbour Hall. Did you hear back from the committee about their light?
No.
Their meeting is on Thursday.
Excellent. Are you on that?
Yes, but I'll be over at over the hill.
That's okay. Hopefully they'll respond once they've had a meeting.
Yep.
The hall's looking good. Nice paint job.
So it's such a shame, isn't it? The concrete faces. Look, I just don't understand. You've got a beautiful picture. Oh, let's put a concrete wall there. It's great. Let's do that. Don't understand.
It was clean in those days.
Yeah, true. True.
And the toilets are there anyway. So it's not
Yeah,
really fine.
true. You don't want a glass wall through there. All right. So any other feedback on the March public forum item? Lovely, thank you. Any updates from our representative groups?
Yeah, I got one that came up this morning at Manapena and relating to Waitapu Bridge and the toilets down at Waitapu Bridge, which have been in the past looked after by Department of Conservation. I think we had they might have had
Walker Kotahi, isn't it?
well, it's actually they're actually a real mess. That's the problem, and I believe it might be TDC that own them. They're not too sure, but they're not sure whether they want them removed because they're in such a bad condition, and creating there's a lot of graffiti around them, and they haven't been cleaned. There's no regular cleaning happening to them now, from what I understand. So I just thought I'd just bring that out. Ask me to bring it forward to us.
Are they driving that though? They don't want us to.
No, they're not driving that. They just wanted it. Well, they brought it up at their meeting. There was nothing conclusive at the end of that.
Okay. So just a heads up for us.
So it's just a heads up for us at this point. The other thing they wanted to thank you for the outstanding letter of support. I think that's one of the thank us for that funding application. So yeah.
Can I just add a little thing about the toilets?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris Pond rang me during last year, probably saying that they're a mess, and
Yep.
he's just happy to go and clean them out. And I think it sits with. I thought it sat with Waka Kotahi since they've taken on the area there. And I did say at the last Manawhenua we had strategic meetings, and we were talking about who we partner with and who we don't. And I brought that up as an example of it's all well and good to partner with Waka Kotahi in a project like that. But, if they're not, and what they say about the toilets is, well, they don't have any funding and they don't have contracts with anybody to do it. So I think I'd like to see us pressure them to say, and the idea of taking them away, I think is a bad idea, because a lot of people go down there to fish, swim, other things. We need a toilet there. So I'd like to see the board contact Waka Kotahi.
Shall I add that to my first chat with Andrew?
Yeah, and just to get them, they just say they don't have a budget for it. Well, what's it going to cost to get someone in there once a week or whatever they do?
Waka Kotahi are actually the silent partner in this whole situation, from what I understand.
I guess first job's to find out who actually owns them.
Yeah,
They seem to think it was us, but
so we don't toilets on someone else's land.
I will chase that up. Excellent, thanks, Grant. It'd be good to have that
I'll just
information.
make one comment about that. So at the regional transport committee later, Waka Kotahi present on what's happening down at Waitapu. So
They do.
yeah, they do. So they are by that is a kind of an indication that they should be, engaging with it. They certainly consider themselves to be active.
Okay.
There's no, I think.
And maybe we could talk them into sending someone down with a weed eater, because it's just they've done nothing down there. So this grass, dead dry grass is all around the show. It looks a mess. It's all very well for them to take it on, and it has resolved the freedom camping issues down there, but
Yeah,
they could just put a tad of effort in.
there have been 1,000 trees planted down there, and that's so for the weed eater, we've got to be careful not to
I think that, I just mean around the car parking areas, you know, if someone lit a fire down there, it'll just go whoosh.
And a lot more, there's three encounters down there every night now, again. Just so you know,
Overnight,
every night.
how many?
Not the same levels as the before. but-
300.
No. No, but there's definitely people sleeping down there.
Less than a dozen or more than a dozen?
Just a
A
few,
few?
sometimes more, sometimes less.
But, you know, we see the same at other spots, different camping spots, right, coming with a name. Antarctica.
Oh,
That was
yeah,
it. Every time I drive past there,
it's privately.
It's privately.
yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
White Hat, there is a sign and they don't seem to read it.
Okay, well,
Uh,
anxious not to fall down the Peter and Camping rabbit hole, so we will continue on
That is
very
still an
quickly.
ongoing, that
Pace.
is, White Hat, that is still an ongoing project,
I'll have a-
quite a large
I
project.
will, I'll see what Andrew's got to say. Any other feedback from any other groups?
I was involved with, yes, for the Collingwood Museum Incorporated Society, which also runs the Rockpool Museum. And we had a special general meeting to elect a committee. So they had some problems out there, quite a few problems around, but I'll just leave it at that. And the previous meeting wasn't advertised, so that didn't count. And the previous meeting, that was an AGM whenever last year, wasn't advertised, so that didn't count. So we were sort of mopping up and getting, so I just facilitated the election of officers, but they've got a good committee, are motivated, and they're really clean and keen to get back onto a just solid footing, and to get, so they've got quite a few things to address. In terms of just having robust, legitimate sort of things in order. But that went well, and I'll keep liaising in. So Pam Gardner's the chair of that. And I've got a full committee, which is great.
Awesome.
On the promotion side, they actually missed the last meeting and they don't. But their numbers through the Vista Centre have been a bit down compared with previously, but basically they are doing okay, and I'm just seeking their information about public transport in order to try and work on public transport, because they're very much in touch with what's needed and what's happening with Wildbay coach lines for sort of threatening to close the trips over the hill.
You've done a lot in that area, Celia. I see your emails, and I really appreciate just how much you're putting into trying to get something happening here with public transport.
Yeah, well, we could put on the agenda sometime.
That would be great. Absolutely.
Thanks, Chris.
Just a quick update. On the village, what's it called? Village Green Acquisition Society, I believe it is. We had a meeting on the Green last Thursday, and we had Lynn Hall from TDC there, so they picked out a new tree and thinking about the location of it and the management of it. But it was actually just really positive, because I think there was some discussion about how the TDC works and how the Village Green Acquisition Society works and who's responsible for what. So it's just positive.
Great. Good to hear. Did we confirm Grant moving into the museum role at the last meeting? Was it?
Yep.
Oh, we did. I could just suddenly, did we do that? We
Yes, I went
did,
to
didn't we?
my
Great.
first meeting last Wednesday.
Awesome.
Nothing really to report, I don't think.
Okay.
Just checking that. Yes.
No, that's good. No, that's good. Thanks, Grant. Okay, thank you. So while you're just searching, Grant, we'll just talk about the welcoming committee for Berta. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Berta. So the Welcoming Communities Officer, Berta, would like to bring the initiative to our attention She was hoping to come to a presentation, but because we're a bit tight on time with our award ceremony and our other presentations, we had to put her off. But she would really appreciate if we complete the survey, which the link is there, and also encourage friends and family and community members to do that as well. Might be able to email the link to Joe, perhaps. Yes, I will do that. Cool.
There's very little to report on the museum. Just having trouble with teenagers hanging out in the bushes behind it and vandalising their wood pumps. I think we've got Lynn Hall on it. She's done some pruning so they can't hide there anymore. And if not, a temporary camera will go in.
Goodness. Teenagers. Items for the actions from previous meetings. So Kim, you've requested a report on the feasibility for the Marlborough 2042 document, but that may tie in nicely to our workshop around the long-term plan.
Yes, I think
Which we'll
following
talk
on
about as well.
what Amy will produce around that, the opportunity for the board to come together and think about what that long-term plan vision might actually be, and how some of the communities pieces of work that are taking place might fit into it, rather than just look at the community initiative in isolation. So John Ridd, my colleague from the executive team who oversees that, is very keen to come and engage with you on that, and that sort of discussion to find out what's possible.
Cool, great. So I've just, Ellen and Amy are just in the Zoom room, so 2 minutes more before we finish this, I'm going to be right. Yes, the Zooming, so sorry, Chris. Ongoing, so that can stay on there. That's for attending meetings in Collingwood. The next item can come off, the Riley Street Reserve, because we'll have a presentation on that. The letter. Yep, so the next section can come off around Port Taranaki Road access. Sorry, it's just because the action sheet changed. So
Yeah.
Doesn't it sort of have a name of the
Steve
item?
Madison.
No, there was something on here.
Yeah, it's just-
Oh,
that
great.
makes no sense at all.
Okay, so I'll talk to Robin about that. then.
Yes.
Right,
So we've overcome the IT.
lovely. Okay, so the IT is good in Collingwood. So I'll talk to Robin and see what we can
How
schedule.
did that come about?
Don't know why or how it
They've
has.
got Wi-Fi at the fire station.
Will we use the fire station or would we use the Tory?
This is like,
I'll
I
check
mean,
with
just say
Dave.
Steve Manners has said, give us the all clear for
Right.
being able to do a meet in Collingwood. I don't know around that,
Okay,
so it might be just a bit of a chat. So
we want to check in with Steve. eh?
yeah.
All right, we'll do that. So that can come off. So the Manapina Timor street name have been advised that they've bumped that up their agenda, so hopefully they'll have a response for Bifrost Way, Bifrost.
Okay, so I was at the meeting this morning.
Just don't share what none of you are.
No. And so it won't happen this month. It won't happen until our next meeting. It won't come back to us, at least until our next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, just so you know.
okay, we're in process.
The last one, they can come off because Liverpool has proposed to Forest of Bird that they be able to use the Lake Kalani Reserve. So that's all in there.
Lovely. That's my front page. So we've got a few resolutions in the chair's report, and I've lost my front page, just look at my words, sorry. Sorry, I haven't done a print stuff off.
You beat your post.
Oh, there it is. Found it. So I'm happy to move that the God may receive the chair report and amend the schedule date by changing the date to Monday, the 3rd of April, which is option B. And retrospectively approve the letter of support for Manapina Pimokai and attachment 1 of the agenda report. All those in favour?
Aye.
Oh, actually seconded, sorry,
Second.
go back,
Yep.
go back. Seconded by Jean Knowles. All those in favour? Thank you, Chris. Okay, so we'll now jump into our long-term overview and engagement with Amy. We should be jumping in via Zoom.
Kia ora koutou, can you hear us all right?
We can. Hi, Amy.
How you doing?
Hello, thanks for the time today.
Hi, Ellen, and Ellen too, sorry.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's see the presentation.
Yeah, so we've got a brief presentation, so I'll just share that on the screen and then Amy can talk to there.
Perfect.
You see that all right?
We can.
Perfect. So we're here today to talk to you about Tasman's 10-year plan. We're about to kick off developing the next plan. And as part of that, we're going to start some early engagement with the community. So what we're going to cover today is an introduction to what it's all about, set out the direction that we're looking for the next 10-year plan, and talk about how we're going to be engaging the community, including an opportunity for the community board to host one of those community workshops. Feel free to jump in with any questions at any time. So what's the long-term plan? Every 3 years, we have to prepare a long-term business plan. We call that the 10-year plan, and we do that in consultation with our community. Any short-term changes to the plan and the budgets are then set out in each year's annual plan. We're beginning consultation on the annual plan 23-24 later this month. And then the annual report is the feedback loop, so it tells the community whether we have done what we intended to do and what has been spent, and then sets out our progress against a range of key outcomes. Finances is obviously an important part of the planning cycle. It takes around 178.5 million to run our district every year, and around 50% of our funding for that comes from rates. And our current financial strategy is set out in the current 10-year plan, and that guides future funding decisions and informs the CapEx and OpEx spending for the plan. So the 10-year plan sets out our strategic priorities, the services and projects we plan to provide and deliver, how much those will cost and how we plan to fund those, and then looks about what that means for rates and for our debt. The challenge there is balancing contributing to community wellbeing with what's actually affordable for the district. We won't assume that you're familiar with every single page of the 10-year plan, which I think is printed out in 2 large books, but you can find it on the website or find a hard copy at the service centre or the library. And what's included in that is our community outcomes, the planning for each of our activities, infrastructure strategy, finance strategy, and a range of funding and financial policies. Our 10-year program, 2021 to 31, has 12 key programs of work. And we're currently just preparing a summary of what we've delivered on that and what we're planning for the next 7 years. We're also assuming that program 10, 11 and 12 will be leaving us and going to the Three Waters entity from the 1st of July 2024. So it's going to look a little bit different this time around. The 10-year plan is underpinned by a range of legislation, national direction, as well as our local strategies. And we have a really close look at council's finances, consider our progress against the current plan, and then think about those ongoing constraints that we need to factor into our planning. We assess what's changed since the last plan was adopted in June 2021, and then we look ahead. So we do what's called an environmental scan, and it gathers information about the external events and trends that might affect Tasman, and that helps us to understand the factors that affect the community and the council. Finally, we have a look at what we've planned for the remaining 7 years of the plan and ask, is this still the right program? So are these still the right services or the right projects to provide and to deliver to the community, and should council's focus or priorities for any of those programs change. The council's having a strategy session later this week, which may inform and shape some of those focus or priorities. So shaping the next plan, here's the steps that we will take. It's a pretty long process. We've done a lot of planning and prep already and set up a lot of the internal structures in council in terms of a project team and governance board. And our next step is community engagement, which we're kicking off this month and next month before we feed that back to councillors and seek some direction from them on building the draft plan. So this is going to include working out what we want to deliver and how much it'll be cost, and then how it'll be funded and how we program that over the next 10 years. And then finally, we prepare a formal consultation document. And that process and submissions help us to finalise the plan for adoption by the end of June next year. So engaging our community is a really important first step for us when we're preparing for the next plan. And iwi engagement is crucial. So Leonie and Jenna have reached out to our iwi partners, and a hui was held with the GMs to find out how they would like to be involved in the process. There's a desire from Te Taʻihu iwi for strategic participation in the process, and iwi would like to see some coordination across the 3 councils in the top of the south rather than having to engage with us separately. So we're trying to work out how we might do it, and it'll be quite challenging because although we're all councils, the key issues and the areas of focus might be a bit different across the 3. So there's close ongoing dialogue about how iwi would like to participate, and at a work program level, we're working closely with them as well. So council agreed to a set of objectives for our early engagement, which are up there on the screen, covering the what and the how. So early engagement is really an early conversation. So it's a lot less formal than our usual consultation processes. And it's the opportunity to hear those local views and local voices around what's important to various parts of our community locally and for the district as a whole. We're targeting both the general public and some harder to reach groups through a range of early engagement methods. There's a strong online focus through our online engagement platform, Shape Tasman, and we'll be spreading that through social media as well. Newsline and our print media, we're looking to do a survey as well, and we're directing some emails and targeted comms to various groups. We're also going to be kicking off a series of community workshops. So through these engagements, we'll be sharing information to help our community understand what the 10-year plan is and the environment that the council is operating in at the moment, and also seeking feedback on the current planned work program and the focus and priorities within that. Community workshops are focused on understanding local needs and views. We've engaged an independent facilitator to run these sessions for us around the district. They're invite only, and we're hoping for a good mix of local leaders, active community participants from a range of organisations, sectors and businesses. We have been invited to co-host at Motueka and Golden Bay, and ward councillors are also invited to their local sessions, and we'll have ELT representation as well. What does this look like for Mohua? We're hoping that the community board would like to host the workshop in Golden Bay, and we've also reached out to mana whenua ki Mohua as well. They're definitely interested. They've suggested that the marae would be a great place to meet and host, and they're keen to talk further with you to work through that. So the potential role there for host is to welcome attendees, open the session, have a chat perhaps about the importance of council working closely with community and its partners, break into some smaller group discussions which can be led or co-led by the hosts and will be well supported by council staff, And then the outcomes of the workshops are going to be shared wider through Shape Tasman and social media to encourage further feedback both locally in Golden Bay and across the district on those focus and priorities. So what we're keen for you to discuss today is your views on a local workshop. We haven't penciled in any dates or a location yet, though as I said, MKM are interested in co-hosting, and that could be at the Marae. They indicated mid to late April would probably suit them best. And we're definitely open to any suggestions you have on the key people that should be invited to attend those workshops. So, jump in with questions.
So not really a question, Amy, more of a, we just have changed our meeting date because we clashed with Easter Monday. So we're now meeting on the 3rd of April. And I just quickly, as an aside to Kim, said that might work really well because we can have a meeting and then a workshop.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback we've just come from meeting with MKM, and certainly their indication was a preference to sort of go later in April rather than right at the beginning. So again, we will have to work with you and with them to sort of to nail down a date. I guess just at this point, keen to see whether you're willing and wanting to play a role in co-hosting, and then we can work out the logistics and the details offline.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm keen. I'll just do a quick round the table. Yes. Oh, right. This is the community one, so I could work still work.
Could work quite well.
Yeah, okay.
So this workshop is for us to learn
Just
about.
us.
So one of the things that I just brought to the table was that John, John Ridd, Group Manager, suggested that there be a dedicated workshop with the board and the council to gear up for the public sessions that follow.
That's a good idea.
So we could do ours on the 3rd and then do the NK mine later in the month. Sorry, I wasn't really clear when I was talking. Before Ellen.
Yeah, I think again, it may be worth having a further session after the workshop to just kind of sift through what's come out of the workshop and see where perhaps there are things that fall into kind of your work program and your project funding and things that need to sort of feed into the LTP. So it might be good to have a conversation after the workshop as well.
Sure. So would that work for you and Amy if we scheduled you for the 3rd? We'll
Before our meeting.
after.
It'll be quite late.
Could do before. Whatever would work for you. Well, yeah.
So sorry, just to be clear, so you're talking about the conversation with you as a community board rather than the community workshop now?
Yes.
Okay. So just
Sorry. It's getting tricky. And then we go from there, working out a date with Mana Whenua.
okay, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I say we would like to start getting that date and the logistics in place before the 3rd of April, so that we can obviously let invitees know what's happening and try and get as many people who are invited there as we can. So we're certainly very keen to get from you some thoughts on who would be the key people that we should invite to that workshop.
Right. That's for the workshop with Mana Whenua.
Yeah. Well, it's a workshop for the community with yourselves and MKM co-hosting it. So
you're co-hosting, but who you'll be inviting is your key community leaders and active participants. So, your local principal, your social worker, the police officer.
Could we work through
got the finger on the pulse in the community?
Could we work through that on the 3rd, or is that getting a bit close?
It's probably getting a bit close.
Right. Chris.
So, hi.
Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, kia ora. I might have misunderstood. So I thought these community consultations were just going to be like an open door event.
No, it's an invitation. That was what we had communicated previously.
Yeah.
Yes. So these workshops are 2 hours, invite only, externally facilitated, and quite focused discussion on what council currently has planned and whether that's still the right focus and priority, both locally for Moha and for the district.
We have tried open door workshops and meetings in the past, and to be honest, we haven't had a great turnout. So we're thinking it's better to shoulder tap the key people and see if we can get them there, and then as Amy said, once we've got some outcomes from that workshop, to make those available via Shape Tasman, social media, those sorts of things, and get some wider comment from the wider community on those outcomes.
Yeah, great. And Mana Whenua ki Mohua are clear about this process too, that it'll be a facilitated event at the marae.
We've just been talking to them. I think they're clear. It was a little tricky on the team's call, but yeah, we can work that through with them and make sure that they understand.
That would be essential, so that
They were definitely clear that it's a great opportunity for everybody to come to the marae to have those discussions.
it'll be essential for you and us to know that MKM's understanding of the structure, the purpose, how it'll be facilitated, that their understanding is the same as yours and ours.
Yep.
So I'm giving you strong advice there about that, so that there's absolute clarity, because
Okay.
we're to their place or our place, and up there we do things how we want to do things, but this isn't going to be the case. This is going to be partnership in action, and I think the process around mihi whakatau, pūpuri, the point at which the facilitator facilitates, all of that will need to be very clearly agreed to.
Okay, good advice. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if it would be useful for all the board members to individually, well, I mean, we can make a list now, but email yourself, Alan and Amy, with a list of who we believe.
That would be great.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
is that the preferred option?
But
do
we
we
can
wanna
throw
make
it through around now so we don't double up, if you like.
You don't need to do it off the top of your heads right now.
Yeah.
It's all good. Take your time and put together a list, maybe share it with Jess, or we can coordinate it, whatever's
Yeah,
easier.
maybe send it through to me, then I'll send it to Alan, so that we cut out on double ups. Okay, great. So if everyone could do that.
Hey, I've got a quick question
Yes.
through the chair. It's sort of, so we're doing this 10-year, we're doing the long-term plan, and it's going to be, it's not going to have anything to do with water this time. Is that what I heard?
That's currently our kind of our working assumption. So at the moment the legislation says we can't have anything about the free waters in the LTP. Obviously, there's some water. Well, sorry the pun, but there's some waters to go under the bridge before we get to that point. So things might change further down the track, but that's certainly our position at this stage.
Sure. So my question.
Our work programs around river management and improving freshwater quality does stay with us as a regional council for Unitary.
Okay. Oh, right, of course. So my question is leading to what happens if there is a change of government at the end of the year, and we've already done a lot of the process, haven't added the water stuff, and the new government changes the system. Where are we left chasing our tail for the June deadline? Is that
okay? Well, no doubt there will be a bit of tail chasing, but I guess we're sort of preparing for that risk. So currently our water infrastructure planning people are preparing programs that they're supplying to the transition entity, so the transition unit, so effectively to the new Three Waters entity. So those programs of work are being prepared. If things change, say through either change of government or change of government approach or policy or timing, then potentially we can slot those programs back into the long-term plan at a relatively short notice. So so we're assuming it won't include the free waters at this point, but we do have sort of in our back pocket some programs to slot back in if we need to later.
And would that
To enable such a shift, the government's going to have to change the legislation too. So it may be that there may be an extension to the current process.
Sure. And how would we publicly consult with that? Would we have time?
Again, at the moment we're looking at the formal consultation being in March next year. So hopefully, if assuming if there's a change of government, then hopefully they'll act reasonably quickly, and we can get that into the consultation for the final stage. I guess every council in the country is going to be in the same boat, and if the time frame's just too short, then the government might have to contemplate pushing out the deadlines for LTPs around the country.
If you can,
Yeah, just, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this one, Amy and Ellen. We still retain the functions as regulator in the Three Waters space. So we still have our wastewater, we still have our stormwater regulatory responsibilities. So we still have our consenting requirements, we still have our compliance. So it's not complete removal of those areas, and they are in the discussion.
excellent. Any more questions from the board members? Excellent. Oh, thank you so much, Ellen and Amy, and we'll get that list of invites to you, and we'll firm up a time for the 3rd of April for just a in-house workshop with you.
Right. Okay. We'll maybe arrange a time to maybe for Abby to talk with MKN and just make sure we've got all the ducks in a row.
Yep, sounds good. Amy, yep, sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, good. Tick. Okay. Stormwater discharge report. Yeah. Robert and Mike, do you want me to bump you up the agenda so you're not sat, or do you want to sit through discretionary fun chat? I'm so excited about the stormwater presentation. I can't wait. Come on up. Is everyone okay with that? So we're not holding them up too much.
Yes.
Down for time. Welcome.
Afternoon, everyone. So I'm David Stevenson, and
I need Robert. Sorry.
no problem at all. Robert Workman, who works in my team, did a lot of the preparation work for this report, so acknowledging him.
That's yeah.
So I'm happy to take the report as read if you like, and take questions.
Yeah, and you really have a chance to, I think Councillor Butler, you might have some.
Yeah, I was just wondering about, it's a bit confusing about whether or not that drain is actually, this is about the Riley Street, correct? Yeah. About the whether or not the global consent applies to an existing situation. I mean, it says that the report says that the global consent applies to the culvert that goes through the Rileys. And the problem is that culvert is actually higher than where the culvert comes out under Riley Street. So it's higher. And if in fact there is a global consent, if it does come under the global consent, does that then mean that council has responsibility to take that culvert effective by doing something to it, like lowering it? Yeah, do you see what I mean? Sure. Yeah.
So I could answer that in a couple of different ways. So I guess there's a number of different questions there, whether you have an easement or a right to discharge, and whether it's consented under the RMA as well. So our position is that it's been there quite clearly for some time, and council constructed that pipe back in the 1980s, and so that was clearly sort of authorised at the time, and then the actual discharge consent for that was picked up in our resource application for all of our discharges around the district. We tabled that as a single consent application, so the RMA consent for that was established. In terms of the levels, yeah, that's right. So it appears that there's some levels on the outlet pipe into towards the Taka River or Takaka Stream, is a little higher than Ryder Street, but that does provide a bit of an opportunity for soakage in the channel as well. But I don't think that changes the. Does that answer the question?
Right, sorry, just another question through the chair. Yeah, so there is a picture there of the plummet.
Yes.
And I have actually seen it, really full of water.
Yeah.
And so if we're looking at this proposal to do a house like there, what will they need to do? How can that be worked out so that that housing development happen? Will they have to put a pipe underneath? Or how would that work?
From my understanding is that consent's been put on hold and the consenting office has asked for further information to ask them how they'll manage the stormwater discharge. And that's one of the things we summarised in this report is our understanding is that the flood hazard from the Parkin River is most likely the predominant hazard. But yeah,
The problem is like almost of water there, you know, even in not that heavy rain, you know, not that much rain. And when the drain comes out at the Riley Street, I can pitch that. There's lots and lots of water. So that's not would mean that you'd have they have to do something that's tight that can effectively to remove it effectively from the area of the day. And I know I appreciate that the Parker River issue is the bigger issue there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, through the chair. I've only been here 36 years, so I haven't got a really long history of it, but I do know that it's flooded a lot more in the last 10 years or so than it has in the rest of the time I've been here, especially around that. And I know I watched for about a week. There was a very long, deep ditch dug there with a lot of shingle from the Taka River dumped into it as soakage, and then soil put back over the top. I don't know. That was only last year. The landowner did it. It's made absolutely no difference to the situation. So I don't know if that's actually going to be a problem. The thing is, and this is what kept coming up, there is a lot more concrete, a lot more pavement, a lot more, well, we didn't have the large paved car park, for instance, in the past. Now all the water runs down from that area, and I don't know if it's quite coping as it was back in the 70s when it was first put in. I think that's probably something that council needs to look at to, yeah, perhaps, I don't know, just my observation.
Was we're calling it our view, would this whole, what's be watertight in terms of a legal challenge around our belief, saying our as council, because you're representing our position, that there is a right to do what's happening. And I guess I just wonder about the consent in 2021. So the landowner was aware of the consent and negotiations happened with him somehow, or the approval was sought, or what's the process there? Because the case that Chris Bennett has put forward and that the rationale for his thinking is quite different to council, isn't it?
yeah. So I guess addressing, some of those questions, I guess we wouldn't know until we were challenged. But that's our understanding. Look at the information in front of us. That's the view we formed on that. I guess probably the most useful thing was finding the as-built plans of the pipe that was put in, and I'll just put my notes here, in 1994.
As-built plans, yeah.
Yeah, so that's right. So we've got a plan of the pipe through the property with when it was built and the signature of the engineering manager at the time. So at least something we can take from that is that, you know, clearly the council built it and it was authorised by the landowner and signed off pipe through that piece of property there.
Because I might be making this up now, but I thought it was a statement to say that there hadn't been landowner approval or the council had put it there. No, but I thought that was one of the concerns was actually like it might be honest, but there isn't a pipe there.
The pipe, the only pipe that runs under what's his name's Brett Riley's is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, that was installed in 1992. So this has been useful in that that wasn't originally linked onto our original plan. And it's not shown as a pipe on the council packet system, but we did, when we dug in, we found those as plans were on.
Right, you with us, aren't you, Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm just trying to find, a bit where it says about land ownership.
In terms of the impact from the urban, it's not often called urban, is it? But in terms of the stormwater coming off the hard surfaces in town.
Oh, there you go.
And you're saying that actually that the impact that it's insignificant, the main hasn't be flooding in the middle of it. Would there be instances where you know, the river wouldn't get up enough to impact that site, but the flood would come in and off a heavy rain that was quite localised? Do you think that's...
Well, I guess the only other aspect to add to that is that we know that when the car park around the library was put in, there's some soak put in as well. So those would have been designed to soak away and to take, certainly reduce the increased flows from the car park. So that we think that that in those short sharp events, certainly in the smaller short sharp events, those soak bins if they're being maintained correctly should be taking, reducing the effect of the paving of the car park. Yeah.
But also our pipe work downstream there would have only been designed to a certain design standard, which is typically a 1 in 10 year or something like that. It would be more like a 5 around most of the district, to be totally honest, but that's the design standard. So you're going to get events that exceed that, and the pipe won't go. So you will get overland flows.
Yeah, that's all right. What's the link between Chris Bennett and landowners coming here to the board and presenting their case about this and wanting something to happen? Here's a response. How do those two things link up formally?
To us, or
Anyone
So
that
through the
knows.
consent, so through the consent, is that right?
that's my understanding.
We're consent and waiting for a response. Thank you, team. The consenting team are waiting for a response.
In response to this,
Well, this is our response.
I'm just wanting to, I'm just wondering, so I know there's a consent process in place, but when we've got people coming to the board meeting and saying, here's all our concerns about this, what's the deal? Here's our technical response. I just want to make sure that as a board, we're going down the right path in terms of back to there, or it's just we're confident it's getting taken care of in the consent process.
And one of, sorry, Mike, you go and then I'll.
So at the stage, let's say the consent team have asked for the questions. We were asked to do this report, and Chris Bennett has actually put in a request for all our information as well. So I'm assuming that he's requesting that information for his response to the consenting team.
It's a shame you have to go through the board, isn't it? I did email him this morning to say, just checking that you've seen the agenda and the report today, this is available, and that he's seen that. He's not doing so well at the moment as well. But he's okay, but so he hasn't been able to do that. But I just, I hate to think about people who are coming to here in a public forum
and not getting it.
and then having to go through the Goina to get some information. Doesn't feel very good.
We've provided some of this information already last week,
Right.
and we let them know as soon as it's the public report as well. So
Sweet.
you've got access to it.
Lovely.
Anyway.
Thank you.
So one of Paul's issues was that he's saying that TDC incorrectly identified a drain across the two properties as a public drain. He's saying there's no easements for a public drain registered across these two titles. You don't need easement. Okay. That's why it's not there.
Allow it gives you protection for the water infrastructure. And there's about 5 or 6 different I guess conditions that you need to meet for a public drain, and so you need to work through.
Okay, so that's why there's no easement because it's not there. Yeah, so you don't need one.
It's a public, and of course, and the rights of the university discharge down there. We've actually installed a pipe in that water course with the owner's approval. So yeah, I mean, it makes life a lot easier if you have an easement.
Yeah.
I guess just to add to that, we are Yeah, we've established some of this, it's been useful, so we can easily have the contractor inspect it, and they check the outlet, the clearance, that type of thing. So it's certainly been helpful in that.
Right.
Get it maintained.
Thank you.
Celia.
Yeah, and I think the rush is because you might be aware that for the resource consent that Chris Bennett is hoping from some for the housing development, and they need to, I think, they must just be involved in the process of this. They will make them eligible for that funding. Because there's no way they're going to. I think we've got about 2% to get the source consent.
No, just is there any upgrade required of council's infrastructure here? Because I think that was one of the points Chris was making, was that if funding, they could access funding to do what they had to do, the council had something they had to do, some of that would contribute, but as it stands, is it good enough?
There's probably quite a lot of other properties around the district that's greater risk to flood than this one. So all the upgrades go on a list ranking through the long-term planning activity and plan. But this is pretty, you know, in the scheme of things, you know, frustrating for people there, but in the scheme of things, there's other places around greater risk to flood.
Thank you.
Just in the playground, it floods quite badly in there too. And that's sort of leads on to what Chris just asked then, I think, about upgrading some of that to be able to mitigate the flooding in the playground, especially on the corner where quite close to where the pipe is. And I know there was a little grill put in there a wee while ago, but it doesn't seem to have made much difference.
I'll certainly take that feedback.
Oh, Mike, sorry.
Just comment on that. So our priorities for stormwater fund is flooding of habitable pools, and so that takes any effort.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any further questions for Mike or David?
Is it appropriate just to ask for a little update on Pool Harbour Works? That's all taking along okay? Yes.
Yeah. So yes. So in terms of the main flood protection reservoir, the first contract was solid in the downstream section. Finished about 4 weeks ago with the retaining walls and bund going well. You've probably seen it more recently than me, but you will have seen the new culverts going in under Angels Drive. I think we are probably a week off finishing up there. I think. And Graham talked to me and said that the bund behind Totally Roasted and so forth is starting in 2 weeks' time.
There was a little bit of feedback regarding that, a little bit of complaints that over Saturday, Sunday, the lights were still in operation and no work was being done. And residents couldn't see why they couldn't have moved the cones for them to have, but just a little bit on it. Whether you want to pass it to Paul Hogan. Yeah. Just while we're. Oh, Robert.
I was just wondering, because I was just looking at the pictures and stuff, if a pipe is to be installed from one culvert to the other and the Takaki River is in flood, would the water still be able to drain out to a certain level of flood, or would it simply back up to the car park and end up overflowing again? So
Depends on the size of the flood event. You know, those smaller floods here will back up through the pipe system, but in those really large events, it's probably coming overland through that property and back into Commercial Street and Riley Street. You know, bigger events. And then the really large events coming into the top end as well.
Excellent. I will thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's nice to see you.
It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a quick 2-minute loo break? Go on then. Quick 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Thanks, David. And apologies, I haven't called you back about the ribbon.
you need to
Oh, accept
receive
the report.
that
Yes,
report.
yes, I do. Is that on my list? It's like, oh, I must do that. Okay, are we on there? Thanks, Jess, for coming. Really appreciate it. No worries.
Did you have anything to add about that?
There was nothing, no, it's all good. I'm kind of like keeping an ear
I
out.
do.
Just so they've
If
got a
she's
really
got
big
stuff that goes on.
focus
Yeah.
for this year, which is mental health stuff.
Yes.
So anything that would come up in that round. Yeah.
We'll touch base anyway in the next couple of weeks. We'll have to sit down now.
Yeah, I'll let you know when they're quite, they're really like.
Oh yeah, Henry, you're right. Yes,
Active
maybe
at the
Henry should
moment.
sit down.
Yeah,
And they just want to
Sorry.
do meetings
Yeah.
every 2 weeks.
Okay,
So,
well, they can let me know when they are.
so yes, they've just jazzed up on for tomorrow night without me. They're doing their own thing now.
Cool. That's what you want.
From that one, next one we organise,
Okay.
I will be.
Cool.
So
Okay, thanks,
yeah,
Jess.
thanks, guys.
Yes, received the report. Yeah, we're tracking pretty good though, to be really for. Yeah. Might not quite get there, but we
Yeah.
might. We'll be close.
I have 3 minutes. So.
Oh, no.
Time's thing happening?
3:30.
That's what I thought.
It's all right. I've moved to come back in 10 minutes to be a matter of company. It's all good. Or we defer it to April because it's only 3 weeks old. Actually, almost both.
What's that?
Yeah, we could do better.
No, it's the plan is David.
Oh, that's right. They want to do it together. It's not till July anyway.
But it has to
okay.
be gathered to go. The
Yeah.
reason that we pushed that.
That's right, because we were going to push it.
Yeah, so we.
Oh, yeah. It's supposed to be two cameras here and keep the public forum. Lovely. So next on our list is the discretionary fund applications. Reminder that Robert is stepping out of the. Oh, approve the report. Yes, thank you, G. Scott. We just need to move the accepted the stormwater report.
With that.
Moved by Deputy Chair Knowles, seconded by Councillor Hill. All those in favour? Right, lovely, thanks. Sorry, Jess, thank you. So discretionary fund applications. So as you will see, we have 5. We do not have enough money.
No.
And just a reminder, I will withdraw from the Golden Bay Community Health Trust request. And Robert has withdrawn, was it a C? No, not C, I think it was the Reckley's, wasn't it? And Golden Bay Arts Council, is that right?
No, sorry, there's no one. Golden Bay Health.
Golden Bay Health, sorry, it's me, yep, and
Both.
the Arts Council.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
apologies.
I note, Chair, that you're not an employee of the trust, you're an employee of the AHO.
That's correct.
And
Yeah,
the trust,
That's correct.
the trust owns the buildings and
Correct.
water. And I guess you might advocate to get heat pumps if your workstation's going to get warmer. But I just
It's not
want
my work, it's not my workstation.
I just note that actually
Yeah.
you're not,
Yeah.
because you said it was because you're an employee.
Yeah,
you're
but I'm not employed by the trust, am I? So
No.
probably, all right, I'm back at project. I'm in. Okay. So, and this is a slightly tricky one. So I wondered if the way we do it, it's hard for Robert though, is because there's 5, we will sort of go around and say between the 5. So I sort of had a lot of thinking. I would decline the Golden Bay Arts Council for the full amount. They've already had $1,700 worth of funding. And the Project Divine, I would also decline as the money is a drop in the bucket as to their entire budget, but a strong letter of support instead. Reckley's Express, I would be happy to fund $500. I hadn't really thought about the Golden Bay Community Health Trust one because I thought I was withdrawing, so I need to recalibrate. And for the seeding, I would be happy to pay $400 for the chopper. Those are just my thoughts. Robert.
I'm the same about the Project Divine Environmental Trust. It's a drop in the bucket. I can't comment on the Arts Council. Wrinkly's Express, yeah, I think a part funding of some sort, as well as the seeding charitable trust, because that's more organisations that need support. That would be gratefully received.
Yes, good. That's you?
Yes, that's me.
A good question. How many Arts Council applications have we received this year? Do we know?
One for every meeting.
One for every meeting. So I can, that's my felt sense of it, is that every time there's an application. So I feel like, I think it would be good if we would, if I don't know if it's you, Abby, or someone else, to meet with the, you've got a meeting coming up, I think, but to meet with the Arts Council, not just the Arts with the council, to say, look, this isn't a thing that you can just look an application every meeting.
So I need to correct that. We are receiving an application from the Art Council worker every meeting, but it is not always with the Arts Council hat.
Yes, so it's wonderful as well. So I think if we can just be, have some time with the Arts Council to say, look, it's likely that we'd fund one application in a year to Arts Council, or whatever we come up with, then this sort of relentless application fund.
And I think our draft, if we adopt the discretionary fund policy, will stop that, because there is, I think, one per organisation per financial year.
Right.
But I will try and have that conversation.
Yeah. In terms of Project Divine, I concur with the comments of the two previous speakers. So they've got a 3-year contract for $595,000, which is just fantastic. They've just done an incredible job. I remember when they started, because I worked up my counselling orders next door, and Chris was scratching around for any bloody money he could get, and they've just a massive success. Coming home from council, we see their utes coming over the hill, and they've got a contract for this last financial year was $246,000 aside from that. So I think our fund is more for places like the Wrinkleys, who get by on 18 volunteers. They probably reuse their tea bags, So I would say no to Divine. I think if our leader says that we just really applaud their success and what they're doing, that we feel like our funds are more appropriate for our small community groups that are struggling. Divine have got all sorts of, what we give them from council each year, you remember? I couldn't remember. A decent amount, didn't they got to $50,000 a year?
Yeah, they have got a decent amount, but they've made a lot of money out of Jobs for Nature. That's really what's boosted them.
Yeah. So I'd go Wrinkly's Express. We've got 1,500 left. I'd go 800 to them. Okay. And the Health Trust, this is a bit, I might be a bit uncharitable here, given it's a charitable trust. And it is close to my heart, because I chaired it for a long time and I was very involved. And I just would like to have seen a financial statement from the trust. So I know that they're working in big numbers, that there's a big amount, they have to put aside big amounts because the refurbishment will be due, in the next probably, I've done 10 years, 15 years, and spending millions again. So they've got accounts with a lot of doshing. I guess that's all tagged for things. I'm a little surprised they've come to us. Yeah. Very supportive, but I just wonder, I would have liked to have seen a statement of their financial position, and maybe I missed it about the other places they've gone.
Caroline did have an email, you did check.
And I guess we don't really have the money to give everybody, much at all.
No, and as much as I feel like it, I would love to say yes, I don't feel like it's an investment for the community as a whole. One of the heat pumps was going into the manager's office, which is why I feel really awkward talking about this, because this is my employer. One of the heat pumps is tagged to the manager's office, one's tagged for You said, here it is, Caroline.
They didn't have a statement in there of their financial position today.
No, and they've gone to the Golden Bay Community Trust.
I think that's probably a better place for that. That's just my view. Don't mind if you all give them something. And in terms of the last one, the Seeding Charitable Trust, my impression is this is an inaugural event. Have I got that wrong?
Yes,
Inaugural
no,
event?
this is supposed to be the first one they're doing.
Yeah.
Hoping
and-
to make it a.
Yeah, I think I'm just a little nervous about our popping in $1,000 or something to something that hasn't got a background of success, good accountability. Actually, it is going to be benefit to the women in the community. It smells mean, doesn't it?
It does, but then again, when I looked at what they were requesting the money for, $400 for the chiller, I was okay with, but $700 and something for some materials were pretty up their tent. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
I just think it's an untried thing. It's an untried event, and I think if they would run something and it's successful, I know contributions will make it successful, but and they came back another time and said, look.
Celia,
All right, okay, yeah. Yeah, the Arts Council, there's wages in there.
I just didn't look at it.
Wages.
Yeah, there is wages, and I sort of agree with what's been said. I won't go over that. Yeah, I just, I'd give them, I would be in favour of giving them a small amount of money for something in particular. Then Project Divine, I agree, it's a drop in the bucket. Brinkley's, I support. And I was quite surprised to read that they, in their report, that they say that they go over every day. I didn't think they did go over every day. I thought they was required.
Well, it could be every day, I guess.
But I thought that had changed, actually. I don't know that they could go every day.
Only if it's required.
Yeah, but they say they go every day. But anyway,
I think what it was is they used to have certain days they went.
right.
And that was that that structure, but now I think what they're doing is they say they can go any day. That's
They
the
put drive
difference.
daily to and from Takaka
Yeah.
and Nelson, so that can include just picking someone up and taking them up to the hospital. I think, so
Yeah.
daily to Nelson, I don't think they do,
No.
but they,
Right. Oh, okay.
I think,
Yeah.
it's the way I read it. But
The Health Trust, I don't, for me, there's not enough financial information. And there, I mean, they're asking for something that's a pretty kind of core service, as heating in a hospital. And I'm a bit, I'm a bit amused about that, because that's fairly basic, isn't it? And I think, well, if they're having to come to us to get heating in the hospital, I mean, I remember when it was built and all that, and the heating that's there must be some heating, but it's obviously not adequate. That's why they're asking for. I mean, you probably remember.
Yeah.
I do, the heating situation. But for me, I just don't think there's enough financial information actually supplied for that. And there needs to be a rationale and some background.
Is it for air conditioning? Because I think that the heating in there, I mean, there's heater thingies off it's run by
there's heaps everywhere.
wood chip out in the big boiler.
Yeah.
Huge amount of money spent on that setup,
Exactly.
honestly, unbelievable.
I think it must be for cooling.
I think it's more for cooling, because I can remember when I was still on the trust, and when you've got a value managed cost out of the building, because anyway, won't go down that terrible road, but a lot of value had to come out of the building for it to be affordable, and a part of that was air conditioning, so just not affordable. So I suspect that's what these are for, because all of the rooms have got.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Heaters
So
that are
should
hooked
we
up to the whole-
actually go back to them and ask for more clarification about what this is actually for? That's what I'd like to see, because heating / cooling is, you know, okay, that would be my thought. And the other
Alright.
one, on, oh yeah, I'd be prepared to pay for the chiller. $400 for them. I know it's a new thing, not really very well known yet, but it could be of great support to, you know, for a lot of these things. Actually, it's surprising how supportive, how it can make a difference with just a few individual people can make a key difference. So that would be my thought, to pay for the cost of the chiller.
Yeah. Care with most of what's said, just with that, the seeding charitable trust. Are the participants paying? Or is it a free event?
I believe
What's it seem to
it's.
say here, whether they've got.
Did I see that it was ticketed?
Yeah, they are paying, because it said that there's a comment saying that keeping the entry fee low. So that
Okay.
Those we have to keep the entry price low.
No, just, well, I mean, I'm not,
Yeah.
there's no, this is very,
Yeah.
noble kind of, ideals here, but some of these things they charge astronomical amounts for. I'm just wondering if that's sort of one of those ones, or just. Yeah.
It's sort of, it's great if people just put in all the information, you know. and-
Yeah, it would be helpful in how many participants and how much each participant is paying. It would give us some ideas as to what our contribution is actually sort of represents
Yeah.
in their budget or whatever.
So they've said 80 women from Golden Bay and their families.
Yeah.
That's what they hope. to
That's what they're
achieve.
hoping
It's
to
been
get.
at 30.
Yeah.
You know, because we just don't know if it's
And they've got women from 25 to 75 registered to attend. It would be great to know the actual registration numbers, wouldn't it?
And
they
they
don't know that, yes.
may not know.
I mean, they've got, well, they've said they've got some registrations, but no.
Big list of countries that they've got registered from. So whether, what are those local women?
yeah.
Okay, that's a really good question. Okay.
I mean, you know, like in principle, I'd be very happy to, but I'm just
More questions?
sort of curious as to whether this is sort of a.
So
I
at
mean,
this,
it's a charitable trust, but some of these charitable trusts.
yeah, so at this stage, based on lack of information,
Yeah, I mean,
you're not supportive. And
well,
actually,
it's not that I'm not supportive.
Yeah,
I just
no,
would like more information.
more information, and
Yeah.
now that you've actually raised that, I'm like, it's a very good point.
Just, I think, Brinkley's, certainly, you know, they're good, great with sort of a clear kind of mandate. Yeah, I guess with this one is, sort of tested event, just, yeah, a little bit more detail about what they're hoping, numbers and things, and then, yeah, with the facts.
Sure, I'll go back to them. Grant.
I'm going to go backwards and start at the start of the one we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
While it's fresh. It brings me back to that point, and I brought it up again, and it kind of leads into the next part of the session here, is we need to have a budget sheet for people to fill out so they can fill the sheet out in their criteria form, so we get it there straight away. Bang, this is your expenses and your and stuff, and so that when we get a funding application in front of us, it's clear. It's not particularly jamming kind of all over the place. So that's just something that I'm bringing up for the future. So that's why this one feels like it's just not quite. I mean, yeah, I was kind of keen on $400 for the chiller hire. Because whether you've got 30 or 80 people at it, it's going to still run to $400. Not 100% certain that a $500 to line a marquee really kind of fits it. Fits as it must be a big marquee. Wow, 75 meters. That a couple of gazebos. Anyway, that's probably bigger than that. Anyway, I'm sort of not so keen to have to support it until I know a little bit more. But I suspect it's going to be too late by the time they get back to us on that, because it's happening at the end of this month.
Okay, well, so we can decline it.
I think declining on that is the reason. Back to the Arts Council, I really support the arts in Golden Bay, it's great to have, but we can't just keep. We're not on the bottomless pit for the arts of Golden Bay. There must be other ways of doing it, and I would really like to see the arts of Golden Bay look further afield and try different funding organisations for their events. Too many applications, and yeah, I'm keen on Wrinkley's. I think they're a great organisation. I'm more than happy to put 500 of our money into Wrinkley's. And yeah, again, I'm not 100% on the funding application from the community health. Just again, it's a little bit of a drop in the bucket. A little bit like Project Divine. It's a bit of a drop in the bucket. It's we only asked for $1,000 of 11,800. It's so. Does it say where they're getting the rest of it from? And if we are going to $1,000, it doesn't even come halfway or a quarter of the way to buying one of these things. And so it just doesn't feel quite like I want to support that unless we've got a clear.
It would be better if they'd come to us and said, we've got this much, we need this much to make up the shortfall, wouldn't it?
And exactly, and I'd like to see a clear budget in front of me. That's my old gripe, eh? And again, I would say drop in the bucket, but Project Divine, a strong level of support would be really good. And maybe we could offer letters of support for unsuccessful applicants here who are needing larger amounts of money in the future. I don't know, maybe that's not just then, but maybe in the future we could offer there's some support for their other funding applications. I don't know. It's just a possibility. Make it ask. We could even have that as a criteria on the form.
David, you wanted to jump in?
I just may help them in beyond current rules that they are encouraged to speak their best so that there's information provided. I see one did come, but it's gone. It's not there. Seven of the ones you're talking about. That's exactly the situation.
Yeah.
Need to do
Yeah, which is, and it was good to have to clarify, and that a letter of support would be just as valuable. Henry, and then Chris.
I'm just curious. This funding, the 1,500 or so we've got left. Is that when do we? What happens if we don't use it, and when does it?
So if we don't use it, it carries over.
Carries over.
Next year. Okay. Yeah, and the next one should be July. 1st of July.
So that's all we've got to the 1st of July.
I think we started.
Sorry, I'm just going to.
The Grant's idea about for a set form of budget and have our own categories and they need to respond to, and I think to seek a statement of their financial position, I think is really important. It's a very simple thing about it produce, and although it's you can look at it as a little fund and you don't want to be too onerous, but I think it just helps us get a bit clearer. And when we see some of the bank balances, will go, gee, have some more, and some of the others will go, well,
yeah, no, it's a great call, right? Celia.
So creative communities have got that. I think I've mentioned this before. Creative communities have a template which says what you're getting, what your expenses are, and then you're only allowed to apply for what's left over.
Yeah.
And so they have to itemise all their income and itemise all their expenses.
And who else you've,
Yeah, so
the
that
funding
all
from.
that template exists, it just need, if you go to Lani, Lani, she's on maternity leave, I think, at the moment.
Julia.
Julia can just provide that for us.
Yeah,
straight on.
and that could be the form that goes onto the website.
Yeah.
For the policy. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick summary then. So we've declined the Golden Bay Arts Council, declined Divine Environmental Trust, and we will send them a very strong support letter. Wrigley's Express we've accepted. I just wasn't quite clear, was it 800 or 500 we were?
You suggested
I
five.
suggested 5. I'm happy to switch to 8.
We might need
I
to do a
suggest-
round.
I agree with that.
8, everyone happy with 8,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
No,
I'm happy.
You happy?
Yes.
Good. We've declined the Golden Bay Community Health Trust. We'll go back to them and ask for more information. And we've declined the Seething Charitable Trust. Is that correct?
Oh, well, I'd like to, I mean,
If we go back to them for more
if
information,
they come
it's
back
not
and say,
going to-
it's, you know, it's
we're going to miss
just
the
covering
event.
costs, for the participants, you know, then that would be. more
We
than
are
happy
gonna
to.
miss it. We're gonna miss it.
We're going to miss their event though, and we can't retrospectively fund.
And we can't do it before the next meeting.
No, so we have to,
Next to decide.
yeah, sorry.
Um, Well, I mean, I guess we just err on the side of charity and, you know.
I would be happy to fund them $400 for the cello.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is a defined cost, so that would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
And to make it specific.
I'd like to see something to, I'm just haven't, because I knew they're a charitable trust, I just want to see that actually how solid they are, like do they have trustees, are they set up, have they got good processes in place? I just don't want to be seen as being, that we're not robust enough, you know, and we're just giving money out to people who are just starting something, let's see if it works.
Charitable trust.
Yeah, but you don't know if how many trustees they've got, there might be 2, you know, like I just feel like there's not enough background. But I've said enough, I'll leave it then. If you decide to give them some money, then
On your head, Bear.
it's on yours.
Now you've scared me, and I'm wavering. No, okay, I'm going to decline it. So this is the last one. I'm going to go with, yeah, and Henry's raised them about the tickets and registrations and
Yeah, I mean.
where the women are coming from. They all local community
How much are
women.
they paying? It's just not enough
Yeah.
information for me.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a no. Chris is a no. Robert.
It's a hard one because like you say, it's a new organisation, new events. I know they're set up as a charitable trust. I know there's at least 3 trustees, there might be 4, because I had to give them some advice at one point. I've worked with the work centre and Ellie Gardner as part of the setup process. So they are aware of the processes and things like that, but it's a new event. How do we know if it's going to be 10 people turn up
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
80?
And we've done that before.
Or
We've
not
spent
going ahead,
$1,000 on an arts thing for youth, and they had 10 show up. So that is, yeah, it's a very good point.
And this is community money. This isn't our money. This is like a whole community, and we're representing them.
And our annual budget is $3,905.
Not
but
much.
it's like, it is not much.
We will be getting more applications between now and.
Oh, we'll be getting more applications.
We will.
So
So
going up.
what my accountant here goes, well, we're running out of money. And we're gonna make it last April, May, June.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna decline.
Okay. Grant,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you for the excellent conversation. So did you get that, Jess?
Up on the screen, and then you
Right.
two.
I
I
think you need to say the words. Go. Yes, okay, so the Golden Bay, I'll move that the Golden Bay community would receive the discretionary would fund application report and grant or decline as follows. Arts Council decline, Project Divine decline with providing a letter of support. Reckless Express $800. Golden Bay Community Health Trust decline, we'll give it to Carolyn. And Seeding Charitable Trust decline. Although, can I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Seconded by board member Hewitt. All those
Can
in
you put
favour?
your,
Oh, maybe I can.
Oh,
It's probably
not a
no,
good
I
idea.
would
Maybe
withdraw
not
that.
with all
Yeah.
that. All right, Henry. Lovely. All those in favour? And it is 3:25. We've still got a few agenda items that we need to pause for the award ceremony.
They're having now.
Hmm?
7 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. So we will,
And do you want to push through the financial summary, because all you need to do is accept that.
oh yes, let's do that.
Unless anybody.
I'm happy to take the financial summary as read, right? Is it all good? Is it all right?
That's all good.
Okay, cool. Can I have a mover for that then? Moved by Adam. Then seconder,
yeah, okay.
lovely. All those in favour? Lovely. All right, so we'll adjourn for the award ceremony.
Tony Cottle and Michael Mackay, who are today's recipients, along today, and their supporters, friends, and partners who are there today as well. So I guess witness the award of these medals and certificates. Just to note, there's only one medal being handed out today because the great bureaucracy that goes with things has only got one of them processed so far. So rest assured, both gentlemen will receive a medal certificate at some point later in the process. Just before I read out the commendation and make the awards, we do have a video message that's been brought along today. So I'd just like to play that to start. So if you'd like to play that, please. Absolutely perfect. And probably better than anything I'm going to read in terms of the form, and I'm sure for the two gentlemen going to receive these certificates today, that is probably the greatest reward you're ever going to receive in terms of the consequences of your actions and the work of people on that day. So thank you very much for bringing along the video message. And that probably is exactly why we are here. Yeah. So with that, I will do the formal part of the process. So as I mentioned earlier, Tony Cottle and Michael Mackay. During the morning of the 1st of January 2021, 3 fishermen went out of Pukawa on Golden Bay in an alloy boat powered by a 15 horsepower engine. Conditions at the time were settled, but the sea conditions were expected to deteriorate. By mid-afternoon, sea conditions had worsened and the boat struggled in the swell. Several waves broke over the front of the vessel as the boat tried to get back to shore. A wave broke over the stern of the boat, swamping the engine and caused it to cut out and stop. The waves turned the boat sideways to the swell, and shortly afterwards, the boat turned over, sending all 3 occupants into the water. Tony Cottle and his wife were at the Pakawa camping ground, and when by chance, Tony's wife happened to notice through the binoculars a white flash in the distance. The upturned boat was so far away it was only just visible with binoculars and not visible to the naked eye. On confirmation that it was an upturned boat with persons hanging onto it, Cottle launched his boat with the aid of friend Michael Mackay. It took Cottle and Mackay over 15 minutes in rough conditions, with water being taken onto the boat to locate the upturned vessel and the men. The men had now been in the water for approximately 45 minutes. Cottle and Mackay were able to drag all the men aboard, who were very cold and in shock. Cottle attempted to tow the upturned vessel back to shore at the request of the fishermen, but with the extreme conditions of the sea, this was threatening to sink them, and he made the decision to cut the tow rope. The boat was found 5 days later, 22 nautical miles northwest of Nelson in open water. The rescued person's family had no idea of the situation. The vessel and occupants were not equipped with any emergency equipment other than life jackets, making the swift actions of Cottle and Mackay that much more important to the successful outcome, which would almost certainly have become a drowning following 3 fish. So I think that highlights both the challenges of the experience and, as we've already heard, the successful consequences of the actions of the day. So with that, I would like to ask Wei Chen to come forward and receive this. Firstly, Michael, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll just demonstrate the medal for those people so that you can show it to everybody's going to get. So this is the medal that presented to both gentlemen for their actions. So it's a very significant award in terms of New Zealand's award level. So awards for bravery are unusual. So this is a very and if either of you like to say anything, please.
Oh, it's just nice to be recognised, and thanks for the nomination. You know, it's just out of the blue, really. Really, you just do what you got to do on the day, and we were there and what had to be done. So we didn't think we were doing anything to raid.
It's good to see them all on.
Yeah,
it's good. Sorry, I'm actually the skipper of that boat you're talking about, and I had a big speech which.
You're more than welcome to say.
You said everything I was going to say, almost word for word. So yeah, I would just like to reiterate my son's acknowledgement, and also this lady is another hero because she's fine.
Just lucky you had a bright life jacket because that's all that we could see. So the colour of the life jacket.
well, originally we only thought we were going for one.
Yeah, we didn't realise.
When we got here, there was 3.
Yeah,
and I mean, and my boat's not thick. So, but
Honestly, it's just absolutely incredible, and just the fact that there's someone on a jet ski and larking around, and Nikki sort of spotted that guy, and just to the right was us. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been looking out to sea, and that was just, you know, from God, really. Jesus, look at that. To say that you guys are forever in your debt. You've saved our lives, and my son can go on. We just could do many things.
If we're out there one day, we just hope someone comes for
My terrifying experience that anyone can go through. Okay. Everyday heroes, these guys. Okay.
Say it again, so I did admit to think, but fortunately somebody did, but the nominees, so again, for this to have happened, someone needs to have put them forward, and it's one of those things, I guess, could easily have just been, you know, everyone moves on and And so really nice that you managed to take the time and effort to put forward the nomination. As a police officer, we see heroism quite often. That's it often goes unrecognised. And this needs to record and we'd actually done one a year before as well.
Yeah.
You want one with a bang? No. Fair enough.
I'd also like to say thank you to Nigel Prattley, was there, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Nigel Prattley and all the people that came out with towels and, you know, wrapping us up. We had basically had pretty much mild hypothermia. Yeah, I got into some really hot water in the bath and my wife said, "Jeepers." That's one thing. So yeah, but yeah, and also to Dean for coming out on the day and the St. John. Yeah, it was quite a big event at our house at that time.
Well, it was an eye-opener because if you think you're going to cling on to a boat, it opened my eyes. I mean, you're only 45 minutes in the middle of summer and you've got guys. You just don't realise.
No, it just whipped up so quick and we've been fairly inexperienced. Flat calm when we went out. It was flat calm again at 8 o'clock, wasn't it? That evening was flat calm at the table. And you're thinking, oh, jeepers, you know, we should have stayed in muscle beds where we're sheltered. But yeah, we decided to chance it. The little 15 horse wouldn't bring us home quick enough. But anyway, no, thanks again, guys. Heroes. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Probably should have checked this at the start, Abby, but is there a cup of tea?
There is a cup of tea.
Always a good way to go. Cup of tea. So please, feel free to stay around, grab a cup of tea, catch up with each other, and really appreciate the
Yeah. So ongoing operating costs. Wages or reimbursement for time.
Yeah, well, that's kind of wages. I mean, that's but food as well. But
It's sometimes quite nice to be able to buy your volunteers a pizza or to buy a meal. As a way of saying thanks. That's something they may not be able to get from another.
Yeah, it's sort of
It's
less-
tricky, isn't it?
It's a bit less accountable in some ways.
It is, yeah.
I'm not
You're
wanting to think our community groups have got, let's, there's more, this bit of money, but there's a way in which there's some things that are really accountable, that are really easy, and it helps people stay really clear.
Yeah.
We're paying for a chiller, here's the money, here's the receipt.
Yeah.
Whereas it's a bit more like a, what do you call it? Small
Charity.
changing the drawer, penny.
Yeah, penny
We
cash.
say, actually, let's go and buy some burgers, or let's buy some
Yeah.
whatever, and it's all a bit loose, I think, about who gets it.
that's
True,
good.
but it's
Thank
not
you.
quite
You said it well.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Although, I mean, I'm not sure if it ever comes up, but say, food bank, funding. Do they, I mean, is that something that ever happens?
No, I don't think it ever had food bank come up, but that might be a different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, just
Yeah.
technicality, but yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you. Yeah.
if it wasn't,
Or if it's food for an event, yeah, for same, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's what
I was
I'm
thinking
I think we decided with the Bay Art, that our money was to go to that and that,
Yeah.
but not the food.
Yeah,
Actually, didn't
we
we
had that
say there was a
discussion,
whole
didn't
lump
we?
of money they wanted to put
Yeah.
on pizzas for someone and,
Yeah.
and we said, no, we're gonna pay for the 4 nights.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right, we do have the discretion to do that, so maybe that's just a good.
Food bank would come under their operating costs or their.
Where's another thing, yeah, yeah. What about, say, fundraising sausage sizzle or something, do people come for funding for that?
Yeah, not too much. Little
Well,
things to fund themselves.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Like 10-cent sausage from their butcher and sell it for $2.
Yeah.
So if we have it properly itemised, then we can choose what we
Yeah.
can fund.
Yeah, that's why it's helpful, isn't it, to have their list of costs?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just accountability to our community for this money of theirs.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've sat on a few trusts, you've done a few, seen and done a few funding applications. Would you have something to add to it, Robert?
Well, no, I see it as going towards project based, you know, it's a project, when it's some money, that's great, and often with projects, it's for certain elements of the project. I don't need rata that fund wages generally, operational costs, but the other ones are specifically project based. So I think that's really good. One thing I'm looking at it, okay, so we can grant up to $700. Now technically, if we get 5 $700, that's our whole.
It's not a lot of money and it's taken up quite a bit of our time.
Yeah,
Organising it, and it's not huge.
And I'm like, does it have to be monthly?
It does not.
No.
Why? Because I mean, if we're gonna give out 5 lots of 700, basically, I mean, someone applied for 500. Why are we doing it monthly?
Good question.
Can I, sorry, through you,
Yeah,
Vicky.
go.
David's probably got some really valuable feedback here because the Waker Community Board just have distributed their fund traditionally quarterly, and you're proposing to change that, aren't you?
Yes.
Sorry.
Right.
Yes, to the chair, I would need to explain that really. Back 8 years ago, up to about 8 years ago, it was monthly. Then there was a board in there, group who I considered to be quite lazy, and they were saying, "This, why do we have to keep looking at these all the time? Why don't we do them every 3 months?" I used to go to all those meetings. I wasn't on the board, and that just changed that, and then it's gone on since then. In recent years, it's been observed that quite often applications were for events or projects that were planned. The group has said, let's do such and such, and it's going to be from this May till June, July or something like that. But there's a fixed time which can happen. Oh, we can't apply till for another 3 months, and that's even going to be the month before, 3 weeks before the meeting. So effectively, sometimes it's 4 months, and they just wouldn't apply. And so the current board, new board, said that is a disincentive for people to apply. Now we have more funds than you do.
How much?
How much?
7,000. I think it's this time. Agree that most people do, or applicants do ask for the maximum amount. So it's been 500. We've always had 500. We run out. Now there'll be differences in the way this community works, the way our community works. See, for instance, if you've given almost half your funds for a year to one organisation, that wouldn't happen for us. But that is the reason why, why we want that change. So people wouldn't be discouraged by having to wait for so long, and then projects couldn't take place, or they'd have to go ahead and then you couldn't apply retrospectively.
I want to comment on that from a like organisation running an event. Nowadays, I find that we're organising it 6 months out and saying, this is what the event we want to hold, this is our budget, who are we going to apply for funding from? It's no longer going 3 months out, oh, let's run an event.
Yeah.
But I guess I do question whether the $700 maximum is at the right level, considering the amount of funds we have.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we go back to
500.
We didn't we just change?
We did,
Yeah,
Dave
because-
raised it. You can't do much with 500 these days. David Gallen.
Okay, a little bit of history. When we came on the board 6 years ago, there was an awful lot of money in the discretionary funding account, and I believe that had been left over from previous boards, and they've done a very good job of holding on to it and not giving it out to the community as fluidly as what we have. And so we've actually gotten to a point where the last 6 years or so, we've given a lot of money out, and I think now we're back to reality. And I think that's been a bit of a misnomer, or that's the right word to it, that we do have all this money, we don't, and that's, I think, something important to remember. And so I think 500 personally would be better over here. I know that you could probably do a bit more in Motueka, but I really think that the discrepancy between the two amounts, we've got how much? 3,000?
3,800, wasn't it?
Sure, there's only seven, things across the course of the year.
So 500's.
Yeah, to have it across more, help to more things. Than,
Yeah, then we.
I'd rather give more, to more organisations. But then here's the other side of it. If somebody wants to do something, it's going to cost them $800 to do it, and if we only give them 300 because that's all we feel we can afford, and they can't go ahead with 300, then we set them up for failure. So you've got to remember those kind of
But is that our
aspects.
responsibility?
No, it's not our responsibility.
No, I don't think it is. I think they, people know that it's got to go here and there and try and get what they can.
What do you think?
I'm sort of going with the 500 in my head, but I want to weigh it up with what we're demanding from our applicants.
We're demanding a lot for a small $500 loan. Yep. Right.
So we need to
Like,
balance that off. You
Yeah.
can't, because I'm going to say, oh, it's going to take us an hour to put this together. I'm only going to get $500 on it.
Yeah. So I mean, from that point, I would be happy to drop it to $500 and leave the forms as it is, and leave the criteria as it is, because it quite clearly states provide appropriate financial statements, e.g. statement of financial position and a statement of financial performance, profit and loss. I'm happy with it. So, I mean, the information is there for them to complete the form. Sorry. Not necessarily in relation to this project. And what do you think? I mean, you must be involved with the 6 all the time. Do you think?
I'm involved in many.
Yeah, but do you think they should have to provide a financial statement about, that looks like it's an annual financial statement, profit and loss, or should it be just in relation to the project?
Yes, the hard one. I think they need to provide it in relation to the project.
Okay, so do we need to make that clearer at that
Yeah.
statement? Yeah. Okay.
The annual, it's sort of like, well,
Yeah.
it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter if they're making $1,000 a year or 500,000 a year, if it is a good project that we want to support. But unless you mentioned a simple statement of financial position at that point.
Yeah. No. So the ones that we've had today that haven't had that, so it's stipulated in there that they're supposed to provide it and it hasn't been provided.
We've picked up.
Yeah. So what's the process whereby the application comes in, they haven't provided that? Geez, so whoever's dealing with it goes back out to them to say, actually, you need to add this.
Should have never came to us.
So we need to just make sure that whatever we've got in there, that we are
Yeah.
making sure that happens. And you have to supply this, and they go, whatever,
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
Okay, so
If we're gonna ask for things, we need to make sure they provide them.
Wondering if it's possible to get that creative communities one. Would you be able to find it, the application for
Now?
creative communities? Well, I'm just thinking it might be quite easy.
Do you want to have a look at it now on the?
Well, if it's not too difficult, see if I can track it down. We could have a look at it now, and that might be enough.
We're not, sorry, through you, Abby.
Yes,
We're
sorry.
going through the policy that will then set the criteria.
yeah,
And
not
we
the
can have the,
process.
yeah,
All right.
as well. So the criteria, the application form and what it looks like can be set under the criteria,
This is, yeah, sure.
not the policy. So, and the policy has yet to be written.
So
Is that, sorry, yet to be confirmed, it's still a draft.
where do I put it in 15? Where do I, so applicants should provide appropriate financial statements, e.g. a statement of financial position. So is that where I put in relation to the project? Or after and a statement of financial performance?
Well, I guess it's just what, we've got to clarify what we want from them. I mean, we want a project budget. That's one
Yep.
thing I think we all agree on. We need a project budget.
Yeah.
But then we've talked about Project Divine. They provided us a full budget, so we saw everything. But otherwise, we wouldn't know that they've got half, or it could be ahead of turned up, that they get $750,000 of contract funding. So I'm trying to work out what exactly we want. I think we're clear on a project budget.
Okay,
That's crystal clear, but what else do we
Project
want
budget.
from them to know what the organisation
What
does?
about just a short statement of their financial position? They
yes,
might be
Yeah.
asking us for money and they say, and
So
they've got,
they've
actually
got-
they've got,
Half of everything.
$50,000 in the bank. Well, actually, we'll probably give it to somebody else.
yeah. Okay, so
Just a
Yeah,
short.
I agree.
words, I want words, Robert. I want words to replace that statement in 15.
Well, if we make the template, so they just fill it out, then we work,
Yeah, as
so,
part of the criteria. process.
what sort of statement of financial position?
Cool.
And
So
then,
that
and we've got
can
2 or
change.
3 categories that Robert's
Yeah.
gonna name.
Okay, so the only change we've made to the criteria, criteria is we've dropped 700 to 500. And then we're happy with this, and then we'll review the process of the application once Elaine's and Leith have gone through this, is that?
No,
No.
15 needs to be changed.
Okay.
And we haven't,
Fix it, Robert. Go on.
So they should provide appropriate, I'm going to say appropriate financial information,
Financial, instead of statements, okay.
because we're going to remove this word statements,
Yeah.
including a project budget.
Including, thank you, this is just what I wanted, the word. So including.
I like your wording, what was it? A summary, what,
Summary of financial position.
And a summary. And again,
yeah, maybe,
of,
I can't.
Overall financial position.
of overall, all right, I'll write it and then I'll read it.
And we just leave out the word statement.
Yeah, because statement's not
Yeah.
what we need.
Yeah.
We just need information, we need a budget, and we need to know whether they've got $1,000 in the bank or 50.
Applicants should provide appropriate financial information, including a project budget, and a summary of overall financial position. Full stop. The financial information, blah, 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 and available, blah, 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 relevant, blah, blah, blah. Like it?
Yep, I want to look at the 3-month thing again, sorry, but I'm just, no, I'm not sorry, actually. I just want to nut that one out because I think we have a different criteria to Motueka, and I believe that, it would be an advantage to us to take it back to a quarterly / 3-monthly thing, because like Robert says, you're looking 6 months in advance for most of your projects these days. And I think, if we had, I'd rather sit down with 10 applications every 3 months than 2 every month. because you don't know what's coming in the future. And that's the hardest thing. And you've got seasonal stuff that goes with it too. What's going to happen in the summer is probably more likely than what's going to happen in the winter. Right?
I've been in that with the first and first served.
Yeah, and I really scared of that.
The money.
So, it's such a good project, but we've spent all that money and yeah. So
Okay.
how do you best serve the community?
You
in that
want to
way?
do quarterly?
I prefer quarterly, but no, I don't know what other people think.
I know, I'm like silly, I'm like, not sure.
I don't know, I mean, you know, I can see your point, Grant, and I think that having actually more of a bundle of applications, I think is probably more useful rather than having them trickle in.
But then do you get caught up in weighing a project against another project? I guess that's part of
Maybe
it.
that's not a good thing.
Yeah. How do you choose bacon over puppies?
And if we did get 10 at one time, that, I mean, and they were all worthy projects that had all gone in one month, you know, whereas if you get 1 or 2 a month, you can sort of like dribble it out. I mean,
Just we took the level of funding that we're talking about. We're just not going to spend too much.
But if we do it monthly, let's face it, we'll be effectively on average only giving out $380 a month over 10 months.
But it's sort of not whether it's monthly or 3 monthly for people out there.
yes.
It's sort of about, you know, when the need arises for them, when they come, actually, what should we do? So what we've got in place is actually not a monthly application thing. We've just got something open.
Yeah.
And if somebody
We don't have
goes,
to go.
actually, we've run out of pay for the horses at RDA, where can we go? Oh, community board. So that's what I think we're more doing.
Yes.
And, you know, as it comes up for people, and if though in the last months of our year, the pie is going to be a thin slice.
Yes.
Well, that these with the tyres, you know, if they new set of tyres, they can't wait 3 months to
No.
pay for that.
Yeah.
You know.
I like the openness of people just pitching it when they.
And I do see your point, Grant,
Yeah,
but
We
I
do
think-
have our special projects fund, which will appear in the
Yeah,
April.
but some of this won't even come near the special projects fund. This is not. But that's okay. Yeah, I mean, it is. I raised it because I believe there is definitely worthy of thought and discussion. I wasn't open. I wasn't close to the idea of it not happening.
No, it's a good point. It's good to discuss all the different bits involved.
Just one more
Or
of
gorilla
these.
monkey.
Just the last one.
Just
quickly, I was just going to
Wait
say,
for them, wait for them.
number 12, organisation management. One discretionary fund a year. I mean, do we put like in principle or something? Because I mean, it might be that an organisation, a worthy organisation, like which is the Arts Council, it seems like something that is perhaps in response to that kind of applicant. But if there was someone who had 2 things that each came up and they were 9 months apart or something, I mean, is there any? Well, no, we could leave it as is, but is there any sort of legal in there?
Yeah.
Can we?
Not for me, but I think to be discussed. Obviously,
I mean,
Yeah, you've got a point, but I still think you've got to weigh up and you've got to weigh up your yearly program of what you're doing, and as an organisation,
Yes. Yeah.
and go, okay, which is the most important one? Where we can get funding for this one? We can get funding for that one, etc., etc. And actually, it makes you kind of, as an organisation, look at different places to. So that would be my thought on that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And we've still got these 6 crossed out.
Which one?
On number 5. And
Oh, no, I don't know why they crossed that out. That should just be 6. I
it's supposed
changed
to be
that from
6.
9 till 6 because 9 months is a long time to do
All right,
accountability.
okay, that's fine.
Sorry, so that's definitely 6.
So there's different.
Oh, have you got 12? Oh, okay, I thought 12 months for an accountability is a long time. And if you're anything like a funding week, you're like, I'll just pick on the boys and girls show because it's me. If I don't do it within the month, high chance that I won't. So, yeah.
Just use the rule 6.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. So we need to change it to the word six, not the number six.
Can I just ask what David thinks of all these changes for their board, because they've been through and done all this, and you know, we have got a
This is basically water weekend.
I know, and that's why we've had changes to it. What do you think of the changes that we've?
Oh, well. Two different communities altogether,
Yeah,
with a different amount of funds that we're working with, I totally understand that. There was one fundamental thing, I'm assuming that whatever we change to, when this goes to council, with the next full council meeting for approval, they'll be approved separately because we've got the message clearly, I think, from whoever it is that's telling us to get them coming in together, that I think alignment is being used all the time, having alignment between the two boards. And if we have all the differences, I'm hoping that doesn't mean we're going to go back and do it again, so we have to come up with the same thing.
Yeah.
That's why a little fear that comes in. I don't know what council process we'll be thinking about that. Ken might be able to say that. In terms of you know, worry about, again, it's probably different communities, but our next round, which is a 3-monthly one, we've only got 2 applications in 3 months. Now, I suspect that the community board, people are more used to applying for other funds, knowing that the $500 to the community boards hardly going to touch the sites, and so we tend to get smaller projects. We don't get funds like Divine have asked the community board for that. Larger projects don't tend to come our way. That's just an observation rather than the biggest fear is that we don't have to go back and do everything again if we're not in sufficient alignment. That's all.
If I could just comment on that. So yeah, I think it was Richard was suggesting alignment, but it was really bringing the two together at the same time. Aligning in that way is still allowed because back we've got differences in the 2 locations. So I think that's the thing, is rather than have one travel ahead of the other.
Yes, cool. I'm comfortable with that now. Can't see you start doing it.
So unless there was anything more, oh. Shut down, chair.
I've just answered the question about the wording of this 18B, costs that cannot be verified with appropriate quote. Like if the RDA was running out of hay and they wanted to get 10 more bales of hay, they have to get a quote and provide it as part of the.
Yeah, I think that's part of that tightening up process. Otherwise, it's too easy for people to go, I think probably I'm going to need, and I think it'll probably coming around this. I haven't checked, but yeah, we've had that in the past. So that's just
you come through the request for the heat pumps. There was no information.
No, it was
She
just
didn't quote a quote, she quoted a price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think quotes are really important. I like to see sometimes sometimes some of the funding applications I've had to do, I had to have 2 quotes for something, you know, from different companies. So
right. Well, I'm happy to move that the Golden Bay Community Board receive the Golden Bay Community Board criteria for inclusion in draft council policy and approve the Golden Bay Community Board discretionary fund criteria and attachment 2 with the adjustments to $500 and that. Do you want that? Do you get that?
Yeah, so those are changes to the attachments.
Yes. So I'm happy to move that be.
I just want to clarify with Kim if we need to, sorry, Kim.
Oh, do I need to put that?
Do we actually need to specify that in the motion, in the resolution, or can that just be amended in the attached documents? Because they don't currently, this document doesn't currently form the resolution.
Oh, no. So we can just move the resolution as it is.
So. And, oh, and any, look, and any
Yeah,
other
it's all
changes the
there.
board
Yeah,
might wish
it's
to
there.
propose.
Yeah, it's all there, so we should be okay.
Okay, perfect.
Right,
Right.
I can do that.
That's,
Do we have a second? Oh, yeah.
I'll second that.
Robert's second.
No, no, but-
No, you
Oh,
can- no, you do it.
All those in favour? All those in favour?
You gotta do it.
Aye. Thank you very much, and the meeting is now closed. Thank you, everybody. Oh, Karakia, sorry, close off Karakia, thank you.
Kia hiki te kororo, kia wātia, kia mama, te manawa, o te tangata. Kia ki te ara mō tātou e ora nei, o rongo ki runga, kia tina, tina, hui e tai ki e.
Good, Tim. Thanks, everybody.